All right, let's try this again. Let's try this again. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert here with our week four college football live stream. And tonight is, in fact, a call-in show. We're going to be taking your questions and your calls throughout the night, talking everything college football, stuff that's already happened, stuff that's going to be coming up. We're going to have you covered every step of the way. But we say try this again because we were supposed to be doing this last week, right? Obviously, we're going to be doing our live streams every single Wednesday right here on our channel. All the more reason to like, the comment, subscribe, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on our videos and when we go live in instances like that. But we were going to do this last Wednesday. It was going to be our first call-in show of the year. And make sure these things pulls up here. I think we got it. Yeah. Well, we'll remove that for a second. But we were going to do this, and my entire apartment flooded. So we're here. It's like live streams at 7. I'm hanging out here at 5:30, getting ready for it, over here taking notes, and the maintenance crew comes in to start trying to fix some issue in the apartment below me. You know how stuff all connects in the walls, and completely flooded my entire apartment. You can see the pictures here best you can. I mean, we're talking at least like, it was roughly 2 inches or so of water. The entire living room just underwater. The couch is covered. Both couches are covered. The rug's covered. Went to the bedroom. Went over here where we're sitting right now. Still kind of a mess to the left of me. A decent bit of a mess, but we were able to make do. So obviously last Wednesday we just weren't able to do it. But an hour before the show's supposed to start, this happens. So we're dealing with massive vacuums, massive dehumidifiers, trying to suck all the water up. And it was like that for like 5 days, man. That happened last Wednesday, and we didn't really get a lot of these that heavy equipment and stuff out until Sunday, Monday. So it's been a really, really bad week. I can tell you that. So we apologize for no live stream last week. I think this is evidence enough as to why we didn't have one, and a good enough excuse as to why we didn't have one. But hopefully tonight the fire alarm, which is what triggered it, doesn't go off and doesn't spray our entire apartment with water. And if it does, you know what? The show's just going to go on. We're just going to deal with it, and we're going to power through because I'm kind of tired of it. So thanks for bearing with us last week. We appreciate you guys for checking in on us and for the support and for understanding that we had to cancel so quick. Very unfortunate, but we are back now, and we will be here every single Wednesday now going forward. Don't plan on going anywhere else for a while. So we're really looking forward to that. We're taking your calls, taking your comments, everything like that. A couple of things that I'm going to touch on today before we get into your calls, and we'll post our number here in a little bit. We will, as usual, try to limit callers to about 5 minutes or so, kind of ask a question, banter for a second, and then get off so we can talk to as many people as we can tonight. And of course, if you don't want to call in, totally fine. We're still going to talk to you in the chat. We're still going to answer your questions in the chat as the night goes on. So don't think we're going to forget about you or anything like that. But man, what a week. What a week. We are a quarter of the way through the college football season. And, it feels like it progressively gets crazier. We saw week 2 had a lot of upsets. Week 3 didn't have a lot of marquee matchups, and yet still saw a handful of big-time upsets and a handful of games that probably did not go the way any of us expected. And now we enter a week 4 that has 4 top 25 matchups. We asked you that in the comment section. What's your top game? We've got Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Michigan, USC, as you can see by the helmets behind us. You've got who else? Utah, Oklahoma State, massive game in the Big 12. Nebraska and Illinois somehow is a top 25 matchup. That's coming out on Friday. So it's going to be a big week of college football, and we're really excited to be covering it every step of the way. But I do have a few comments and a few topics I want to touch on before we dive into calls and before we dive into anything, kind of some major talking points. The first one, I want to talk about Florida for a quick second. I've had a lot of people actually reaching out to me personally, asking me about Billy Napier and the Gators and what's going to happen with that program, with him in Gainesville. And I think the simplest way to put it is he's gone. Billy Napier is going to be gone very, very soon. Florida, I'll continue to preach, man. It's a 5-star talent versus a 5-star culture type of thing. Florida's got talent. They've got it. They've recruited well. They've got talent on the roster, But if you don't have a good enough coach or you don't have a guy that can come in there and develop a strong culture, you're just not going to win. It's just not going to happen. And this was actually the situation that Texas was running into a few years ago. Texas always had elite talent. It was always recruiting well, bringing these guys in, yet they couldn't contend. They weren't really contending in the Big 12. They were missing out on bowl games, unacceptable based on the expectations that a program like Texas should have. And a lot of that was due to coaching. Then Sarkisian comes in, gets off to a slow start, but now he has developed the culture, developed the talent. Billy Napier hasn't done that. And he's going to be gone by the end of the year. Last week's performance against A&M was absolutely atrocious. I know it was a really wet and rainy game, but you have DJ Lagway playing great against Samford. Choose not to start him against Texas A&M. I get he's young. I get it with Samford. I get it's an SEC opponent, but he was a guy that gave your offense a spark, seemed to really reinvigorate your fan base. And he goes, we're going to go back with Graham Mertz, who hasn't done anything in his Florida collegiate career. Really hasn't done anything in his collegiate career, period. Was mediocre at Wisconsin, mediocre his time at Florida. We're going to go back to him. The defense was playing A&M's backup quarterback. They didn't even have to face Connor Wigman, and they couldn't do anything. Could not stop the Aggies to save their life. So you get crushed by Miami at home. You get crushed by A&M at home. That's just purely unacceptable. I think they'll probably win this weekend against Mississippi State, who just got crushed by Toledo. I mean, god-awful team down in Starkville. But we know what's ahead for Florida, right? They haven't played Georgia. They haven't played Texas. They haven't played Ole Miss. They've got a lot of top 5, top 10 caliber teams left on their schedule. They're not going to win any of them. They've got one win on their record right now. I think I had Florida going 5-7. I believe that's what I had them. They might be lucky if they can get 3 wins. I mean, really might be fortunate to get 3 or 4 wins. Regardless, they're going to finish with a losing record. Billy Napier is going to be gone. I really thought he might have been gone Sunday or Monday. I thought they were going to get rid of him then. So I'm surprised he's still coaching. I know it's early in the season. We're not even out of September yet, but I'm surprised he's still the coach down in Gainesville. But I would not be surprised to see them get rid of him maybe by the end of this month. And definitely he will be fired Sunday or Monday if they lose to Mississippi State. There's no doubt about that. But Florida in a really, really bad spot. I wanted to address those kind of questions, I guess, I was getting from people regarding that. And I was like, it's kind of a no-brainer, man. He's out of here. He's going to be gone very, very soon. Question is, who do they get? Who's that big name that Florida's going to be able to get? Because they got to get a big name. I see Lane Kiffin going around quite a bit, but I don't know if anybody wants to go inherit the dumpster fire that is the Florida Gators right now. Continuing on, real quick, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Chris Gates Fitness, and his online training camp. The link for that is down in the description below. I really recommend you go sign up for his training camp, guys. You get an 80% discount. 80% discount if you use our promo code Gridiron. So, I mean, you can't beat that. It's $10. I mean, he's usually offering it for about $50. You're getting it for $10 if you use our promo code. He's got some fantastic gear over there and some workout programs over there. Big time giveaways. They're giving away a treadmill this month, a step challenge. Whoever finishes with the most steps. I know we're halfway through September, but you can get a lot of steps in a day. They're giving away a free treadmill. They're doing weekly college football pick'ems. So he has kind of combined sports and fitness into one for the fan. And I really, really, really admire that. And I've used it a lot myself. And you can't tell. I'm not going to strip for you like Pat McAfee, but we're seeing a little bit of results, and a lot of it's due to what he's putting out on his website. So definitely go check out Chris Gates Fitness. The link for that down in the description below. We're going to continue to plug it in all of our videos, continuing to plug it tonight on the live stream, but highly recommend you go check it out. And again, sign up. It's only $10. Only $10. And will be a great investment for you this season. I can promise you that. Speaking of investments, I'll tell you another thing that's great is our expert picks. We talked about that. See it across the bottom there. We're trying to reach 100. And here's why. We're trying to reach 100 expert pick subscribers. Because if we can get to that point, we're going to do a 24-hour live stream. There's going to be a 24-hour live stream. That means we're going to start it on a Friday night, go all night long, well into Saturday, and basically be live watching football with you all day on a Saturday this season. If we can get to our goal. We are over halfway there. That's the beauty of it. We are over halfway to our expert pick subscribers goal. 52 out of 100. All we need is 100. Whether that's the combo package, whether that's the individual college football package, whether it's the NFL package. We don't care which one it is. But if we get 100, we will do that 24-hour live stream. We'd love to get a couple tonight. Maybe we can get 3 tonight. Get us to 55% of the way there. Let's hope we can get tonight. We're going to continue to plug it. Some of the best picks in the country, one of the lowest picks in the country. You know the drill. You know what we've got. This is where you need to be. We can guarantee you that. You got other handicappers out there offering stuff like, pay $100 for 1 day of my picks. Pay $100 for 1 week of my picks. We don't do that. That's a scam. That's an absolute scam. Ours is for a full year, full 365 days. Lowest price in the country, best results in the country. Help us reach our goal. You're our only hope. You, the GE Nation, are our only hope. We want you to sign up. Again, let's shoot for 3 tonight. Regardless of what it is, let's shoot for 3 expert picks subscribers tonight. And if we continue to do that, especially at every live stream, we'll be there in no time. We will be doing a 24-hour live stream before the season is over. I'm really looking forward to that. All right. We're going to continue to plug it. So bear with us. You know what? I'll save the other 2 talking points. I really will. I don't want to y'all are going to talk about it anyways. I just know. Y'all are going to call in, and we're going to talk about my other 2 points. So we'll address it. I want to say hello real quick before we open up the phone lines. My man Trey was here earlier. Don't know if he's here now, but Trey, happy to have you. Brady, good to see you here as well. Pumped for Tennessee, Oklahoma. Pumped for USC, Michigan. We'll talk about plenty of those tonight, as we said. Mitch, good to see you, my guy. Happy to have you here. Happy to have you here. Hope you're doing well. Go Clones, man. They are a legitimate Big 12 title contender. Hunter, 5657. Nebraska is back, he says. I think so, too. Scott Young, good to have you. He says, go Bucks. OHIO. Brady Glassman says no. OHNO. Daryl Turner, good to have you. Wolfle, good to have you. Dion Thacker is here as well. Dion, let's go golf, baby. I meant to text you about that, actually. Here in about 2 weeks? How's that sound? 2 weeks? Let's schedule a tee time. Let's get it done. We're gonna do it. We will be going golfing. Daryl, let me answer a few of your questions real quick, and then we'll open the phone lines. Let's see. Daryl. Florida A&M beating Troy. Louisiana beating Tulane. I don't think either of those happened. Troy has, to me, exceeded expectations. Been more competitive than I expected. Don't really think they're going to lose to Florida A&M. And I like Tulane a lot. I'm telling you right now, man, there are so many people that are picking Louisiana to win this game. Maybe they do. I don't see it. They've played 2 crap teams. I think Grambling and Kennesaw State, practically 2 FCS teams, even though Kennesaw is an FBS team now. Whereas Tulane has been battle-tested, probably should have beat Kansas State. Really should have beat Kansas State 2 weeks ago, and then held their own against Oklahoma last week in Norman. I mean, that was a 5-point game midway through the 4th quarter. So Tulane is better than their 1-2 record shows. They were expected to lose to Kansas State and Oklahoma. They did, but they were more competitive in those games than maybe people thought they'd be. So I don't think your 2 picks there. I don't think either of those happen. So could be wrong, but I just don't see it. Now Army and Navy going undefeated, especially Army. I'm excited for both those teams being in the American. I know Navy's been there for a while. I'm aware of that. Army now joining from the Independents to the American. It's really cool to see them both in the same conference. Army's got one of those sneaky good underrated teams, right? No one's really talking about them. They're 2-0. Really haven't played anybody. I do think they're going to beat Rice this Saturday. Rice has been one of the biggest disappointments in the American. I thought this would be the year for them to break through. Not going to happen. They're not going to go undefeated. Army is going to slip up somewhere because if you face a team that can stuff the run or put the pressure on Army, that's the thing, right? Army is one of those teams that doesn't play well from behind. If they get down, 10-0, 14-0 at any point in the game, it completely throws off their game plan. Same for Navy, because they're a team that wants to chew up a bunch of clock. They're a team that wants to ground and pound, run the ball, and limit your offensive possessions. Well, if they don't score on their offensive possessions, their limited ones, they're in trouble. They're going to have to go to the pass. They don't want to pass. They're not that great at passing. So definitely not going to go undefeated for either of them. I don't think Navy hasn't lost yet this year. They're probably going to lose this Saturday to Memphis, though. So not too worried about that. They won't go undefeated, but both I could see having a winning record when they meet in the Army-Navy game, which sadly no longer will be by itself. I think the Army-Navy game now is being played on the opening day of bowl season. So we'll have bowl games with Army-Navy. So it's a full day of football, but the full attention will no longer be on that game, which I think is unfortunate. But still, we'll see. Let's see. Daryl says Florida's going to lose. Florida should have kept Dan Mullen. Kind of agree with that. Dan Mullen even took some shots at Florida. You know, it was funny that, he was a guy that had led Florida to a couple of New Year's Six bowl games, and they got rid of him after one bad year. Some are saying he was checked out. Some are saying he was kind of done with it. I don't know the details on that necessarily, but they were having some very good success. And if Marco Wilson doesn't throw that shoe, they might have made the college football playoff legitimately. So, and that was under Dan Mullen, we should add. Let's see here. Does Kansas State and Syracuse win their conference? Kansas State, I think, does. That's my pick. My preseason pick was Kansas State to win the Big 12. Syracuse is a sleeper team. And if our man Jerry shows up, he can tell you all about it. Big-time Syracuse fan. I like Syracuse a lot. I think they'll dominate this Saturday against Stanford. Their offense is electric. The defense is going to get there with Fran Brown being a defensive-minded guy. Really excited to see what happens up in New York. But they're not going to win the ACC. They're a contender because the ACC is wide open. I mean, really. Miami's the top of the top, right? They're the best in the ACC. But, Clemson still has questions. Florida State obviously is out of the picture. Georgia Tech, maybe. Louisville, maybe. I think your top two in the ACC are Miami and Louisville. Syracuse could be a dark horse. They don't have a horrible schedule ahead of them. They really don't. So wouldn't sleep on it. And I'll tell you this, if Syracuse does dominate, they got to dominate Stanford, as they should. Great things happen. If they do that, they more than likely will be in our GE Top 25 come Monday. So Syracuse is right on the outside looking in. If they can get a big convincing win over Stanford, conference win, they will be in our top 25. I really like the Syracuse team a lot. Let's see here. We just had somebody sign up for our newsletter over on thegridironexpert.com. Had someone sign up for the newsletter. Could be someone leading to an expert picks. We'll update it as we go. We make an expert pick sale tonight. 53, 54, 55. We'll update it live here on air. Somebody's on the site. Question is, will they pull that trigger and join our team? That's $1 million question. Hopefully, we'll get a few tonight. Hopefully, we can count on a couple of you guys to contribute and help us get to that goal. I want to touch on one more thing. Scotty B, good to see you, my man. Happy to have you here. We promised you guys before we get to the call, we promised you guys that we would take a look at what a 12-team playoff would look like, what a 12-team playoff would look like based on our GE Top 25 rankings. This is something we're going to do every week. This is something we're going to do every Wednesday here on the channel, kind of slowly updating you guys on our playoff picture based on our rankings, not the AP rankings, not the playoff rankings, our official rankings. And if you want to take a look, this is what we've got. This is what we've got as our official 12-team playoff if the season were to happen today based on our rankings. And it kind of goes from left to right here. Texas is number 1, Ohio State 2, Miami 3, Utah 4. And this is the crazy thing about the playoff, right? In the AP poll, and even in our poll, my number 1 team is Texas. My number 2 team is Georgia. Isn't it crazy how the number 2 team in the country in Georgia would be the 5th seed in the college football playoff? Isn't that crazy to think about? So even though Georgia is the number 2 team in the country in our rankings, because Texas is ahead of them, and because, in theory, based on the rankings, Texas would be the top SEC team, therefore the conference champion, they would get the first round bye. They would get the number 1 seed. And because Georgia would not be a conference champion, they would fall all the way down to number 5. That's really kind of crazy to think about. So just because you're 2 or 3 or 4 does not mean you're guaranteed a top 4 spot. You've got to win your conference to do that. If you fail to win your conference, then you would drop to a first round game, which if you're good enough, you'd get to host. So the 8-9 matchup would be Missouri hosting Tennessee. The 5-12 would be Georgia hosting Northern Illinois, who we do have as our highest ranked group of 5 team as of this moment. If you want my honest opinion, it's not going to stay that way. It's just not. Northern Illinois will not be the highest ranked group of 5 champion when the season ends. I could see it being someone more like right now, UNLV, Memphis, and Boise State would be the top 3. I've got NIU ranked as the highest right now, and they deserve to be in that spot right now. Not doubting that, not denying them. These are my rankings. But Northern Illinois will fall. They will drop. And it'll be someone else. It will be someone else. So again, as Scotty said, it's as of right now. So that's the 5-12 matchup. Over on the other side, 7-10, 7 Alabama hosting Penn State. What a great matchup that would be. Penn State and Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That would be absolutely epic. And then Ole Miss, the 6th seed, hosting Oregon, the 11th seed. Talk about an offensive-minded game. Talk about a potential shootout. Maybe take the over in that game if it were to happen. And then we've got Ole Miss beating Oregon. As of right now, I would definitely say that because Oregon really hasn't impressed me much. Their win over Oregon State looked good, but it was Oregon State. I would pick Alabama and Tuscaloosa over Penn State. I obviously would take Georgia over Northern Illinois, and I obviously would take Tennessee over Missouri. And someone would say, obviously, what do you mean? Tennessee has to go to Columbia where they got smacked last year. That's true, but Tennessee looks unstoppable, man. I know they haven't played anybody that great. Their best win is NC State, who really isn't that good of a team. Not the team we thought they'd be, but Tennessee looks dang good. They're not just an offensive team. They're not just an offensive team. They are very stout defensively, especially on that defensive line. There are not many teams right now that I think could beat Tennessee. There really aren't. So even though based on our rankings right now, we have Missouri ranked ahead of Tennessee, and in this situation, Tennessee would go to Missouri, I would be picking the Volunteers to win that game as of right now. So you would have 2 straight SEC games there, an opening round SEC matchup there, and then the winner would play Texas. So you'd have an SEC opening round game, SEC quarterfinal game. Honestly, that whole left side of the bracket is dominated by the SEC, which is possible. Maybe unfortunate for us as fans if you want to see more parity, but it is possible because of how top-heavy the SEC is right now. I mean, in our GE top 25 and our top 10, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 60%. 60% of our top 10 is from the SEC. That's not bias. That's not intentional. It's just showing how good these teams are. And of course, as we get into conference play, that might start to weed itself out a little bit. But bottom line is, there is a possibility you could see 5 or 6 SEC teams. Half of the playoff field could be from the SEC. That's not unrealistic. Might be unfortunate, but it's not unrealistic. And you will see opening round games between teams from the same conference. Might be the SEC, might be the Big Ten, but you will see it. I mean, Penn State we have as the 10 seed. We have Oregon as the 11 seed. A couple things go their way, and they could be facing in the 8-9 matchup. They could be facing in the 7-10 matchup. So, and that would be a Big Ten matchup. So it is not out of the realm of the possibility to see an opening round matchup between 2 teams from the same conference or 2 teams that have already played each other this year. That is not out of the realm of possibility. So I still am sticking with Georgia and Ohio State in our national championship. That could change. We're only in week 4. You never know what it's in store over the next few weeks or really over the rest of the year. But I still, despite Georgia's poor performance, I still think they could take Texas down at a neutral site, especially Ohio State. They haven't played anybody good, but I think they can beat Alabama at a neutral site. I think their defense could stifle Cam Ward a little bit at a neutral site, and then obviously would face Georgia in the national championship. Again, that could change. We will update you if it does change. Again, we'll be updating it every single Wednesday here at the channel, but as of right now, that is our Gridiron Expert 12-team college football playoff picture. And if you want more of that, again, come check it out every single Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, right here on the channel. All right, last question in the chat for a second before we open up our phone lines. Todd, do I see any upsets in the top 10 in week 4? Well, we're about to talk about that, my friend. We are about to talk about that. We've got a lot of big-time matchups, right? We've got Tennessee and Oklahoma. That could be a top 10 upset if Tennessee were to fall to the Sooners. USC is right on the outside of the top 10. So even though it's not top 10, that would be an upset if USC lost to Michigan. Absolutely. I don't know if you're going to see many other teams, in the top 10 fall. I'm not really too concerned about some of the guys in our top 5, really. As I'm looking through, I'm trying to look at the schedule. But so, no, nothing major. But the closest one you might get is Oklahoma, Tennessee. And we'll be talking plenty about that here in 1 second. So let's dive into it. We're going to post our phone line. Again, Chris Gates Fitness. We're going to add him to our ticker down at the bottom. Go check him out. The link down in the description below. Our expert picks goal. Go add that. Check that out down in the description below. We'll update that throughout the night. Our goal is to get 3. Our goal is to get just 3 tonight, and we would be in a very good spot. 55% of the way to that 24-hour live stream. So do not want to miss out on that. Let me add this here. All right, perfect. With that in mind, we'll continue to pump it, but give us a call. Let's talk football. Let's hear your picks. Let's hear your comments. Let's hear what you have to say. 870-955-4797. We're going to take as many calls as we can tonight. Remember, roughly 5 minutes a call. Roughly 5 minutes a call because we want to get to as many of you as possible. I don't have a screener. I don't have someone over here screening the calls, putting you guys on hold. So we're going to get through as many as we can. As many as we can. We look forward to hearing everything you have to say. And we're already getting our first one. Now, I think I know exactly who it's from. Let me take a look here. All right. Is this Hunter?
Yes, it is.
What's going on, Hunter? How you doing, man?
Doing well. As well as I can with terrible coach who's got a Clemson, man. I'm going to ask you about that. I got 2 questions I want to ask you real quick, and both about ACC legends, Florida State and Clemson. I'm going to start off real quick with Clemson. You said, I asked you this question last year, and you said it was a possibility, but you really don't see it happening. This year, Dabo Swinney, week 1, gets absolutely demolished by Georgia in Atlanta. Week 2, he dominates a team that we were supposed to dominate in App State. Week 3, it's going to be a good game, but I feel like we're going to beat Stanford. But do you think that Dabo Swinney is going to be in the hot seat?
You know, I really don't, Hunter. I really don't. I think it's hard to put a guy like Dabo, who's won a couple of national titles recently too, not 15, 20 years ago. Relatively recent national titles, was in another one not too long ago before he fell to LSU. I don't really think he's on the hot seat. I think you've got one of the best coaches in the business right now. Obviously, his stubbornness is holding Clemson back, his defiance of using the transfer portal, his recruiting strategies. And honestly, that might be something where the administration at Clemson kind of forced, almost like an ultimatum. It's like, look, dude, unless you fix your strategy, unless you fix your approach into building these teams, we're going to have to let you go. Because if you continue to do this, you're going to, send our program backwards. The thing is, Clemson, all of their goals this year are still right in front of them. The loss to Georgia was expected. Maybe it wasn't expected to be as bad as that, but it was expected. They crushed App State, which was honestly a good win. They looked good doing it. It wasn't an ugly win by any means. Florida State now is extremely beatable. That game in Tallahassee, I originally picked Florida State to win that in the preseason. I'll tell you right now, I'm picking Clemson to win that. Now I'm going to change that pick live on air. And, the schedule is very, very favorable to where they could find themselves in the ACC championship. And if you win that, you're in the playoffs. So, again, that's a long ways away. But unless he just completely tanks this year, we're talking, like 7-5, something like that. I really don't think he's on the hot seat. I don't think he's going anywhere. Honestly, I think for Clemson, it's going to come down to Dabo in his decision. If he's going to leave, if he's going to jump ship, it's going to be on him and not because Clemson forced him out.
All right. I got a question about Florida State. Florida State, they did not expect this at all, and I want to hear your thoughts on this because I don't know how to make sense of all of this. I mean, 0-3 loses to Memphis of all teams and loses to Georgia Tech in Ireland. I mean, it's outrageous, man, and I want to hear your thoughts on that.
It's a dumpster fire, man. I think Florida State did themselves a really big disservice with how they ended last year. It's not their fault. Jordan Travis got hurt. You can't predict and you can't prevent injuries. It just happens. I know they felt wronged by the committee being left out of the college football playoff. I think this is honestly showing that they didn't deserve to be there. yes, they won the ACC. Yes, they were undefeated, but they probably would have gotten destroyed by whoever they played, whether it was Michigan or Washington, Texas. It doesn't matter. They would have gotten killed. But then you had the lawsuits. And then you had the whole offseason where Florida State fans were talking all this smack. And I think it put some very high expectations on this team where they were like, now it's playoff or bust, which surely is the expectation. But it was a lot of offseason noise, a lot of offseason pressure. And that was really not a good thing to have, considering Florida State was bringing in so much new talent. I mean, they lost practically their entire offense from last year, lost tons on defense. And so it put some unrealistic expectations immediately, not by week 2, week 3, immediately on this team. And it all kind of fell apart. I think part of it's coaching too. Mike Norvell has been severely outcoached. And I'm not going to go out and say, Hunter, that Florida State's lucky. I'm not going to say that they were a fluke. But if you look at Mike Norvell's history at Florida State, it hasn't been good. He peaked 2 years ago, or started peaking 2 years ago when they won 10 games. But if you look at their schedule, they played nobody. They lost all their games against top 25 opponents in 2022. Then last year, returned practically everybody from that 10-win team. So, yes, they were experienced. They were a veteran team, played very well, but did nothing when Jordan Travis got hurt. And clearly now they're doing nothing either. So I don't think Mike Norvell is as good as people hype him up to be. Clearly this is the case now that they've lost to Memphis and Georgia Tech and Boston College, and a lot of those in very ugly fashion. So I think this team was never as good as we made them out to be. And they're kind of going to – they have regressed significantly to just mediocrity. And unfortunately, I think it's going to stay that way for a while.
Well, thank you for answering my questions. That's because that's still not to make sense that Florida State being a college football playoff contender into being an unranked team who's probably going to finish bottom of the ACC.
Yeah.
So, thank you for answering my questions.
Hey, Hunter, I appreciate your call, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Love it, man. Hunter is he's one of the top dogs, man. First ever caller. I'm never going to let him live that down either. That's a bad thing. He's first ever caller here at the channel. First ever caller for our first ever live stream show, and crushed it then, crushing it now. Always short and to the point. He's like, I got 3 questions for you. I'm going to hit you, and then I'm hanging up. He crushes it. He's like the perfect caller. So, Hunter, we appreciate you, my guy. Thank you very much. And glad to hear you're doing well. Very glad to hear you're doing well. The phone line is open, still remaining open, 870-955. And I'll put that on the ticker as well. 870-955-4797. And in between calls, or obviously when we cut off the line later tonight, we'll address everything in the chat. Get him on here. We lost him. Call dropped. I don't know what happened there. We had someone on the line and then we lost him. So give us a call back. Whoever that was. Maybe it was on our end, so we apologize for that. 870-955. There we go. Let's give him a call. All right, you're on the Gridiron Expert. Who do we have with us?
Hey, this is Brady Glassman.
Hey, what's up, Brady? How's it going, man?
Going good. Just sitting down in the house. Just kind of wanted to chat about my Fighting Irish. Just a heartbreaking loss, week 2. Just kind of want to touch on. Do you think Notre Dame should consider letting Marcus Freeman go?
I think it really, Brady, depends on what happens the rest of the year. If they miss out on the playoff, I still think they have a shot. I really think if Notre Dame wins out and they win the majority of those games convincingly, like we saw against Purdue, which Purdue's not a great team, but still, if they can do that, I think they'll get in. And I think the pressure's off. If they miss out on the college football playoff, then I think it could be under consideration. I think Freeman's a good coach. I really do. I think he's a very good coach. I think he's a great guy. But I have no doubt that Notre Dame would jump at a better coach and a better offer if it was presented. And, there's all these stupid rumors about maybe Urban Meyer going to Notre Dame. That's his dream job and all that stuff. I don't think they get him out of retirement and out of broadcast for that. But if some other big name decided to come to Notre Dame or was interested, I think they'd let Marcus Freeman go in a heartbeat. But no, I don't think they're going to let him go unless they lose another game that they shouldn't. And, I see a couple people saying, no, they're not beating Louisville. Maybe they're not. Louisville's a dang good team this year. I really think that he has to win out. I always said Notre Dame could have a loss and still make the playoff, but I always thought that loss would be to someone like Texas A&M or Louisville or Georgia Tech's no slouch. In the preseason, I thought maybe Florida State. I mean, there were some tough games in the schedule, and I was like, they can afford to lose one of those and be fine. Northern Illinois, that was always supposed to be a kind of a lock in the win column. So, but I'm rambling. Point, Brady, is no, I don't think they'll let him go unless he fails to make the playoff. That'd be what, 3 years under Freeman now that he would fail to make the playoff, and by Notre Dame standards, that's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, you can't lose that game. I don't want to get too angry right now. I mean, kind of have to accept this as reality, but that week 1 game at A&M, everyone seemed like everyone picking against Notre Dame. They come out and they look so complete. Maybe their offense isn't as good as it could be, but their defense is firing out on all cylinders. They completely shut down the A&M passing attack that everyone thought was going to light the world on fire. And come into week 2 against Northern Illinois, they were favored by almost 30 points. They kind of looked like Nick Saban said, that rat poison. Just they bought into the hype, and you just can't do that. And it's just kind of like living in monotony again. Like, we've seen this again with Freeman, with the whole Marshall thing and Stanford, and I think that Stanford win was after Notre Dame was kind of figuring themselves out. Beat BYU in Vegas. It's just, if this trend continues, because I don't think that they should. I think we should still give them a bit more time. But it's just so ridiculous, and you can't lose games like this. Notre Dame was a virtual lock to make the playoff, it seemed like, and I'm just not too confident because I know that you've got some decent teams left. If you can beat Southern Cal, if you can beat Louisville, maybe Georgia Tech's a solid team when they play them. But that loss to Northern Illinois is going to be so damaging because Notre Dame has to get in as an auto bid. Can't win a conference championship. So with that, it just makes things a whole lot more difficult. I think that puts a ton of more pressure on Freeman. After that A&M win, it kind of seemed like his job seemed secure and safe. It seemed like Notre Dame was going to be smooth sailing. But now it's just so uncertain. And I know you beat Purdue, but, who cares? Sure, good performance and all, beat them by, 59. But I don't really think anyone cares too much because just that loss is so crippling if you're Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, you made a lot of excellent points, and obviously, what you mentioned, there is no conference championship, so they're going to have to get in as an at-large anyways. The highest Notre Dame could ever be, even if they had gone undefeated, would have been the 5 seed. They were never going to get that first round bye. And you're right. It's one of those things where with the Marcus Freeman situation, it's funny to me, and I truly feel bad for Notre Dame as a whole because under Brian Kelly, they were always a contender. Yes, they made the national championship back in 2012. They made a couple playoff appearances under him, but they never won those big games, right? And then Freeman comes in, and what I thought was funny, he immediately lost his first big game. His first game was that Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma State. They were playing really well and then blew, I don't know, what was it, a 21-point lead, 28-point lead, whatever it was, and lost the Fiesta Bowl to Oklahoma State. Immediately follows that up with the loss to Marshall the next year, the loss to Stanford, as you mentioned. It was like he still isn't winning the really big games. They couldn't beat Ohio State in those home-and-home series, but he's also losing games that he shouldn't, which is something Brian Kelly really didn't do very often. So it's like, geez, where does Notre Dame draw the line? When does Notre Dame finally figure it out on how to play a complete season? And again, going undefeated is so hard. Not many teams can do that. I think most teams honestly should expect at least one loss in the season. It's so difficult to go 12-0, but losing those bye games when you pay a team $1 million+ to come play to get beat and you're 30-point favorites, I mean, that is unacceptable. I'm right there with you. The beauty of it is, as you alluded to, I think it's a pro and a con. The schedule is maybe tougher than we originally thought. Louisville's still a tough team. Georgia Tech's going to be a tough team. USC is maybe better than we once thought. So there are opportunities where if Notre Dame can win those things, it'll kind of like push that Northern Illinois loss a little further down. Northern Illinois, it's a bad loss. It's a great thing that it happened in week 2. If you're going to lose a game like that, you want it to be early. You want time to make up for it. You want time for the committee members to kind of forget about it. You know, I'm not going to say I'll ever forget about Northern Illinois loss, but if I say, hey, this team won, Notre Dame has 3 straight wins against top 25 opponents in convincing fashion, I can skip the fact that they lost Northern Illinois in week 2 with a lot of new players. I can get over that. So, and obviously, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you're a huge Texas A&M fan going forward. The more wins A&M can rack up, the better A&M looks throughout the season, the more impressive that 10-point win on the road looks for you. So there's still opportunities. Season's far from done. It's super, super frustrating. The pressure's on because one more loss and they're definitely out. But I really honestly do, Brady, but still have a lot of faith in this team.
Yeah, good point. I mean, for all I know, maybe Northern Illinois does wind up being that team. Like, I mean, I want to give full credit to him. I think that Coach Hammock is a great coach. He loves the game of football. His team clearly wanted that win more. They played their hearts out. I mean, there's no reason for me to really hate on Northern Illinois. I mean, they're not like the USC or Stanford or Michigan to us. But, I mean, they just got to draw a line, like you said. Like, team kind of last year. I mean, the only 3 games they lost were to quality teams. Ohio State, heartbreaking loss, probably should have won, but still, put up a really good fight. Louisville wound up making the ACC championship, and Clemson wound up turning their season around as the year went on. So it seemed like kind of they figured out that line, but now not too sure. I mean, yeah, give it time. We'll see what Freeman can do. If he can start getting his team around and start getting them to lock in and not to listen to any of this media hype and attention, I think that is really what he's going to need to do. Like, I mean, with the Marshall loss, it just seemed like they weren't hyped. Obviously, they were a much worse team back then because they virtually had no real playmakers on offense besides the guys in their O-line. But, I mean, with that, kind of a different story. Stanford maybe a bit similar, coming off a big win in Vegas against BYU. With Northern Illinois, just lose a heartbreaking one after just buying the hype. So they got to draw a line. I think if Freeman can figure things out, even if they don't make the playoffs, I do think that they should maybe at the very least, I give them maybe about 2 seasons at the very least. I think that there's definitely time. I think he's got an opportunity. I think that he's still kind of a young coach. Maybe it's a bit of a no reaction to really bring up this question in the first place, but they really just have to figure that line out. Like they just cannot keep continuously letting Notre Dame fans down, because Notre Dame, like it or not, they're a blue blood. They are expected to have the 4- and 5-star recruits. They're expected to be on the national spotlight year in and year out, whether people like it or not. So I think that, like what you said, I'd give it more time. I think that there's still some time, and though the chances are definitely much, much slimmer than we initially thought after that big Week 1 win, there's still a chance. They're going to have to really come together and figure a way to ride the momentum, and after that Purdue win. But, good points. I think they should probably give it more time. Good point. Just hope for the best. They really just have to figure out a level of consistency. I think that's really just what's been hurting the Irish for the last few seasons.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Brady, we're going to let you go, man. We'll talk more about Notre Dame here for sure, but we're going to open up the phone lines, man. But I appreciate your call.
All right. Thanks, man. Just have a good night. Take care.
Appreciate it, man. You too. He's a good man, good friend, Brady, man. He's a longtime viewer, I should say. Longtime viewer here at the channel. Love seeing his comments on all of our videos. And obviously a little bit frustrated with the way things have been going for Notre Dame. And we're going to address all of your questions and comments in the chat. So if you've got guys in the chat, questions in the chat, definitely put them in there. We're going to address all of them tonight, we assure you. But we also are taking your calls, just like we've done with Hunter, just like we've done with Brady. The call-in line is ticking across the bottom. We'll have it in bold here, 870-955-4797. Going to be our number for tonight and really for all season. Brady, appreciate you calling. Look, that's the thing, man. That's the thing in college football. It is about consistency, and that's why it's so hard. I go back and forth a lot of times with these coaches that have that 1-0 mentality. Sometimes I think it's really cheesy. But at the same time, it's also legit. Like James Franklin at Penn State is one of the guys that is so big on that. Like, I don't know if you see his stuff on Twitter, but like this week they play, I think it's Kent State. So it's like all about Kent State. Like, we don't care who we play next week. We don't care about Ohio State later on in the year. We are solely focused on Kent State. We as fans know more than likely Penn State's going to destroy Kent State. But as a player and as a coach, you can never overlook an opponent. Unfortunately, like Brady knows, just like Northern Illinois, you could end up like Notre Dame, who loses to Northern Illinois. And I'm not saying Notre Dame overlooked the Huskies, but you can never look ahead. But that's why it's so hard in this world of college football is you have to bring your A game every single week. And unlike even in the NFL, you want to win every game possible. You're trying to win every game, but in the NFL, you can afford multiple losses. We see teams get into the playoffs in the NFL with, 17 games, so 7-8 losses, and you can still get in. 9 and 8 teams are getting into the playoff because they, 7 teams get in from each conference, and it's a much longer season. I get that, but college football, you don't have that luxury, not even close. So consistency is absolutely key. Leveling out expectations is absolutely key, and that is something that does come back on coaching, right? Like, because bottom line, I think he alluded to do with Nick Saban and the comment about rat poison. These players see what the media puts out. These players see what we put out as fans. They see what TV people put out. It's hard to avoid it. They have social media. They're getting guys in their DMs. Peyton Thorne was talking about how Auburn fans were attacking him in his DM after his performance against California. Like, it's hard to avoid the noise. You can, everywhere you go, there's something on TV. There's something on your phone. There's something everywhere. Students on campus. You go to class. So how do you level out the expectations? How do you bounce back after a heartbreaking loss? How do you continue to succeed after a big-time victory? That all comes down to coaching, making sure his team is focused, making sure they are locked in every single week, all throughout practice. You practice like you play. You hear coaches all the time saying, hey, we didn't have a good practice. We could have been better. We should have been better. And that sometimes leads to very bad performances on game day. And that's honestly what matters the most. So excellent points, Brady, from what you said. I still have a lot of faith in this Notre Dame team. Defense travels well, and they still have one of the best defenses in the country. And I will stand by that. The problem really wasn't their defense against Northern Illinois. 16-14. You'll have 16 points. Yeah, you had a few bigger plays than you should have, but a lot of it was the offense, right? Leonard didn't look good. A couple big-time turnovers in that game. They look like they ride the ship a little bit against Purdue. Let's see how much it carries over. Again, phone lines are open, 870-955-4797. We're going to have it there. We've got it ticking across the bottom. As we promised, in the meantime, we're going to continue to address everything in the chat until we get calls. If we get calls, that's entirely up to you guys. But we'd love to hear from you and talk about your team, upcoming games, hot takes, debates, arguments. Need a rant. I know Louise a couple weeks ago was wanting to rant and let out some frustration after the Florida State loss to Boston College. He was a diehard Florida State fan. So we're always here. We're here. It's like a helpline in a way. So we are ready to hear from you guys. I want to talk to my man, Trey. Trey, good to see you. What manner will the Hogs invent a way to lose this Saturday? Dumb penalty, fumbled punt, running backwards in the wrong direction. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me with the way they're coached. Yeah, man, I don't know. They always find a way, right? I think Arkansas is one of those teams that loves inventing new ways to screw up. Like, if you think you've seen it all, no, you haven't. You haven't seen the Arkansas Razorbacks. Like, they will find a way to lose in the most ridiculous way. They're playing Auburn this Saturday. So go back a couple of years ago, that Bo Nix fumble. That was a clear as day fumble. You can't fumble the snap, turn around, throw it backwards, and call it intentional grounding. That's not how it works, but the referees gave the game to the Tigers anyway. So that's a crazy way to lose. What they did against Oklahoma State 2 weeks ago when they outgained them by nearly 300 yards, but basically gift-wrapped the game for the Cowboys is a crazy way to lose. I think only one other time in history has that ever happened where a team has nearly outgained their opponent by 300 yards and still lost the game. Arkansas did that. They're just unique in that way. They like to be special. And it's one thing that Arkansas, to me, dating back, honestly, throughout their entire history, has never been the team to put the hammer down, in the words of the great Chad Morris. Left lane, hammer down, full tilt, boogie. They're a team that, if they get up too much, like 24, 28 points, they go, hey, we should probably stop playing to let the other team have a chance. It's like playing, Madden or the new football game on PS5 now, and you're playing like your younger sibling, and you're beating them by 30, so you let them score a couple times to make them feel better. That's what Arkansas does, essentially. We feel bad for beating a team this bad, so we're going to lighten up and make them feel better about themselves. The problem is Arkansas lightens up a little too much, and they end up losing the game. So I don't know, man. I don't expect them to beat Auburn. I know a lot of people do. Don't know why. Auburn's not a good team either. They're just not. They have not looked good all year. Horrible against California. Horrible against New Mexico. I have no faith in either team whatsoever. The way we phrased it in our Week 4 predictions was it's a battle between two teams that have already, through 3 weeks, disappointed their fan bases tremendously. And whoever loses this game on Saturday will be down bad even more than they already were. Essentially, that's what's happening. So it's a big game, right? The winner can breathe a little bit. The loser basically just wrap up your season, call it good because you're not going anywhere. And I think more than likely that's going to be Arkansas, and it would make sense. They'll lose this game. They'll lose to A&M because when do they ever beat A&M? They'll get destroyed by Tennessee. They might hang with LSU and Fayetteville off a bye week. They might beat Mississippi State. But the Hogs, if they lose this game, will not go bowling. We'll put it at that. Arkansas will not go bowling if they lose to Auburn. End of story. That's my personal take. So we'll see. We'll see what way they find a way to lose. I think it's going to be they wear the wrong jerseys. I think it's going to be something like, they don't communicate with Auburn, and Arkansas comes out there wearing some ridiculous jersey that doesn't, probably something like, like last play of the game, Arkansas is going to have the game won, but then there's a penalty because they have 2 guys out there that wear the same number. And so that puts Auburn in field goal range, and they kick the game-winning field goal, something like that. That's probably what will happen. But Trey, good to see you. Happy to have you here, man. Appreciate you and all your support, and obviously our mutual connection. Hope to see you at the dinner here in a couple of weeks. That'd be great. Chan, man, good to have you. Good to see you, Chan. What's going on? South Tex, I will respond to your email tonight, my guy. I know Danny was looking in to increasing that expert picks goal as we are at 52. We're at 52. He's looking at trying to make it 53. But we will address I will send you an email back tonight, my man. I appreciate you and your support, obviously, and we'd love to get you on board as well as everybody else. Again, we're looking for 3 tonight. We can get to 3 tonight. We'll be at 55%. A couple more over the rest of the week like we typically do. We could be over 60% by the time we do this live stream next week. So sign up. The link down in the description below. Help us out. Check it out. We'd love to have you on board. But to answer your question, Danny, absolutely brutal week for the Bruins. I know it's early, but Foster looks like he doesn't know how to coach. Should have made D'Anton Lynn the head coach. Yeah, I was skeptical from the get-go with Deshaun Foster. I liked that they promoted from within. I think that's always a good sign, trying to maintain continuity. And I think that was UCLA's plan, right? This major transition to a new conference, a tough conference at that, with a lot of talent or lack thereof, maybe. They didn't have a whole lot. So it's like, I think UCLA kind of knew that this was going to be a bad year, regardless of who was coach. It was going to be a bit of a rebuilding year, regardless of who was coach. So they kind of tried to lick their wounds and say, well, let's get somebody in there that at least knows the program and knows the players and maybe can exceed expectations a little bit. And then and I know it was just media days. But his comments at media days were weird. It was maybe he was nervous. Maybe he was trying to be funny. I don't know, but it was really, really weird. Kind of felt like he was in over his head. And through 2 weeks, that's kind of been the case. You barely beat Hawaii, ugly game. Barely play football at all against Indiana. That was one of our best bets last week. I'm sorry, Danny, but we took Indiana to cover, and they covered with ease for us last week. I'm concerned for you the fact that UCLA hasn't even had a 300-yard game yet. I know they've only played 2 games, but they have failed to hit 300 yards of offense in 2 games against Hawaii, who's not that great defensively, and obviously Indiana. They've looked really, really bad. And now they've got a game on the road against LSU this Saturday. I know LSU's got some problems of their own, but if you get beat by 29 points at home to Indiana, I fear for what could happen to UCLA on the road in the South, Death Valley. Luckily, it's not a night game. Don't think it's going to matter. D'Anton Lynn probably would have been the better hire. From his track record of what he did at UCLA, what he's already doing at USC, one of the best defensive minds in the game right now, probably would have been the better hire. And who knows? I mean, maybe we have seen instances in college football where these teams see the writing on the wall and they get rid of their coach really quick. Like one bad year, and it's like, dude, you're not the guy. We're not even giving you a chance. You're out. So maybe they get rid of Deshaun Foster and steal D'Anton Lynn. I think D'Anton Lynn would jump at the chance to be a head coach from UCLA to USC and back to UCLA. He's not having to move very much. So I think he would jump at that. So I'll be interested to see what the Bruins do in that regard. But we knew this was going to be a down year. Most of us did. We didn't really have high expectations for UCLA. That's proving to be the case. Hang in there. Hang in there. It's going to work out. It's going to work out. But yes, I think they probably made a minor mistake in the head coaching department. Let's see here. Doggy, good to have you here. We're happy to have you, man. Always happy to have you on the stream. Always some great questions and discussion points. Again, call in if you're interested, guys. Number is ticking across the bottom on our ticker. We'll pull up the bold here in a second, but we've got our call-in number there. We'd love to have you on board. Love to give a call. You say Florida State could go 1-11. I don't think they'll manage that. He said every game is losable except for their game against the FCS team. They'll find a way to win one or two. California is a winnable game, guys. I mean, surprisingly, Florida State's slightly favored against California this Saturday. And I honestly can see why. California has been impressive. That win over Auburn was great, but how many times? It's one of those things, a double-edged sword. The defense was good, but how good were they really? Was it a matter of California's defense being that good, or was it Peyton Thorne being that bad? I think it's a mixture of both. This feels like a get-right game for Florida State. California doesn't have the most potent offense in the world. I don't think they're going to light up the Seminoles like Georgia Tech, Memphis, or Boston College did. I think it'll be pretty close. I know they're not beating Miami. We know that. I don't think they're going to beat Clemson. They could beat Charleston Southern. Was that right? Is that right? Their FCS team, I think it's Charleston Southern. They could beat Charleston Southern. They could beat Florida in the season finale. They really could. So I don't think they'll go just 1-11. I think they'll be a little bit better than that, but a losing record, 100%. Pretty much already set in stone at this point. 0-3. They can only lose 3 more games the rest of the year if they want to go bowling, and that's just not going to happen. So did not expect that this year at all. Don't think any of us expected that this year at all for Florida State to be that bad. Step back, sure. This bad, no. And like I told you 2 weeks ago, there's a lot to blame for this. Yes, DJ Uyunglele is a major reason for this. And everybody wants to point fingers at him because of how bad he is. But the offensive line has been atrocious. They can't run the ball. They can't protect their quarterback. Mike Norvell has been outcoached in every game he has played. Outcoached by Brent Key, outcoached by Bill O'Brien, outcoached by Ryan Silverfield, and there's a chance he'll get outcoached by Justin Wilcox. I hate to break it to you, but none of those coaches are world beaters, all right? None of those coaches are some of the top coaches in the game today. So he's not getting outcoached by, Kirby Smart and Dabo Swinney. He's getting outcoached by middle-of-the-pack guys. And if I'm Florida State, I'm concerned about that. And the defense has been ridiculous. They look like Swiss cheese out there. They have no ability to stop the run whatsoever. No pressure on the quarterback. And we talked about Brady called in. He talked about motivation. He talked about kind of, getting your mind right, momentum. Florida State has no momentum. Florida State came into the season with negative momentum, right? They get beat by 60 against Georgia. They file their lawsuit. They were never going to win. They lose all of their players. They bring in mediocre players to the transfer portal. They had no momentum coming into this season. Now you're 3 games in. You have no momentum again. You're 0-3. You've lost all these games. Every single game you've been favored in, nearly as double digits, by the way. They were an 8-point favorite at one point against Memphis. You've lost all 3 of those games. Eventually, you get to the point where what's it matter? Why do the players even want to play? Is there any motivation and excitement from these players on Saturdays to go out there and win? Right now, there is none because the season's over. You're not winning the ACC. You're not going to the playoff. The best you can hope for is the Independence Bowl, and half your team, if not all of your team, will opt out for that game. And honestly, Florida State would probably put up a better fight if they took the band and put them out on the field for the rest of the season than the players they've got on their actual roster. So I don't think they're going to go 1-11. I think they'll manage a couple of wins here and there, but they're not going bowling. They're going to have a losing season. They're not going to right the ship. If they were going to right the ship, it would have happened last week against Memphis. It didn't happen. It's a done deal. It is atrocious. I'm not a Florida State fan, so I have no dog in the fight, but I think it's a really, really, really bad look. I'm telling you, I think Mike Norvell is a little bit overrated. I think he's gotten a little too much credit, and Florida State has been a little bit overhyped because people want them to be good. They want this program to be good. They want this program to succeed because Florida State's such a well-known program. They're a huge brand, and some would say college football is better when Florida State is good. Do with that as you want. Whether you believe that or not, that's great. But fact of the matter is you can push that narrative all you want, but they are the farthest thing from that, and it will take a long time for them to get back to this point. This is not a one-off. This is not a down year for Florida State, and the next year they're going to bounce back and be legitimate contenders. No, this is a major setback for this program, and I think it's going to take a little while to build out of it. And right now, I don't know if Mike Norvell is the guy. Call me crazy. Don't know if they're the guy. So, got me on a rant about the Seminoles, man. Come on, what is that? What is that? How did you manage that? Again, call in. We're going to keep hitting the chat, man. Y'all put some great questions in the chat. But if you do want to call in, talk about whatever you want. 870-955-4797. Phones are open. Phones are open. I wish we could text. I wish y'all could text. That would be great. The number that we've got does not allow for that to happen. So that's unfortunate. But you can give us a call for a couple minutes. We'd love to talk to you. But in the meantime, we'll continue to talk in the chat. That is our call number. It is ticking across the bottom. Again, 870-955-4797. Want to once again plug in our sponsor, which is also ticking across the bottom, Chris Gates Fitness. Online training camp is great stuff, guys. I'm telling you, combines fitness and football. What more can you want? He combines fitness and football so well that after a couple months of working with Chris, you might be able to walk onto the Florida State football program and start playing immediately. That's how good his stuff is. So highly recommend you go check it out. Lots of great stuff over there, and it's only $10. Only $10, 80% off. It's a heck of a deal for our GE Nation that he worked out with us. So use our promo code Gridiron. The link for it's down in the description below. You go sign up with him today. Get only $10. That's it. You get access to everything. Massive giveaways. Sign up now. You get to participate in the weekly football pick'em for some free prizes. And again, he'd love to have you on his team because he's doing some great work over there. Great work over there. And I once again will plug in the expert picks. We're still at 52. We'd love to get a couple tonight. Again, whether you want to take advantage of the picks, which would be the whole point, whether you're just looking to contribute to the channel, I tell you what, even donation wise, we would count a donation that's the equivalent of one of our expert picks package. We'd count that as a sale to get us to that 100 goal. So we're looking for just 3 of those tonight to get us to that point. And I really believe if we can do that roughly every week, we'll be there. We'll be to our goal, and we will do a 24-hour live stream this fall, which would be just phenomenal. I want to do it, but we got to can't just give it away, man. We can't just give it away. We've got to have like a incentive. We've got to have something that we're working towards to get to that point. So want to continue to plug that when we can. Danny, I like what you said here. Does Washington State have a chance to make the college football playoff? I think they've got like the 16th best odds right now, according to the FPI, which isn't the best metric, but they've got like a 25% chance to make the college football playoff based on their start. So I wouldn't rule it out. And how crazy would that be, right? If Washington State somehow ran the table, went undefeated, no conference really, kind of an honorary member of the Mountain West this year, them and Oregon State, and they find a way to get to the playoff. I mean, I'm not ruling that out. They have 2 quality wins right now over power opponents in Texas Tech, a blowout win over Texas Tech, and Washington winning the Apple Cup in thrilling fashion, I should add, this last Saturday. So you've got 2 Power 4 wins on your resume. I think it's next week they play Boise State, who could be a top 25 team at the time. If they beat Boise State, they're looking really good. I believe they play Oregon State later in the year. That'd be another power team on their resume. My only concern with Washington State is strength of schedule, right? That's my only concern. Again, we mentioned Texas. They'd have Texas Tech. They'd have Oregon State. They'd have Washington. They'd have Boise State. They'd have a couple of quality wins on their resume. Is it good enough to get them to the playoff as compared to a 1-loss power team? Even some of these 2, would you put in an undefeated Washington State over a 2-loss, Ole Miss team or a 2-loss Alabama team with their losses coming to like Georgia and Ole Miss. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like those strength of schedules and those type of games, the SEC and the Big Ten are going up against are much tougher than what Washington State's going up against. So wouldn't rule it out. I'm not ruling it out. The schedule lines up pretty well for them, and they've got opportunities to make some statements. Jake Dicker, I really think since he took over in Pullman, has exceeded expectations. I feel like he does it every single year. I know last year was kind of disappointing. But he's got him on track to go to a solid bowl game. He's already exceeding expectations. I don't think many people, considering the amount of new players the Cougars were going to have, expected them to beat Texas Tech or Washington. Definitely not both of them. So I love what I'm seeing out of the Cougars. Don't think they'll make it. But is there a chance? Absolutely. It's like that Dumb and Dumber scene, you know? So you're telling me there's a chance. There's absolutely a chance, and it's more than the 0.0001% from the movie. So I've always had a soft spot for Washington State. I've always loved the underrated atmosphere of Pullman. I've always loved the offense they've run up there. I mean, Mike Leach was killing it. Even Nick Rolovich for that whole thing. It had some fun teams. Jake Dicker is just a really great coach, very underrated in that area. So would love to see them have a big season. Really would. Would love it. Let's see here. So I like what Doggy said here about the at-large bids in the playoff. It's kind of like basketball, and I would say yes and no, right? I would say yes and no because it's a double-edged sword, right? And you mentioned quad 3 or quad 4 losses. Not always, right? Like we've seen, like in college basketball, especially especially now with the way that college sports is structured. You go back and look at in recent years, like Duke, Kentucky, North Carolina, Kansas, like those teams typically each year lose to a quad 3, quad 4 team at least once early in the year because they're bringing in all these new players. You got to, it's one season, one and done, and then you're bringing in a bunch of young high schoolers to come, elite high schoolers, but young high schoolers try to come win, and they're not, the chemistry's not there to beat a team that's much smaller school that has a lot more experience, a lot more senior and veteran players. So Kentucky lost to UNC Greensboro. They lost to, on average, under John Calipari, they were losing at least 1 or 2 games every November, December against teams that they shouldn't have lost to every year. And yet Kentucky still woke up and they made a run to the NCAA tournament. Yeah, they might lose early, but they were still getting there as like a 2 seed, a 3 seed, a 4 seed, pretty high seed. Arkansas, even under Eric Musselman, was the same way. Arkansas, they lost to Hofstra. They almost lost to Valpo. They lost to UNC Greensboro. Under Eric Musselman, Arkansas was losing games early in the year they shouldn't have lost. Got hot down the stretch, and we're still getting 4 seed, 5 seed, things like that. So it's not always. And I know the point you're trying to make with Northern Illinois, it's like that's a bad loss. Number one, if Northern Illinois ends up being the highest ranked Group of 5 champion, or if Northern Illinois goes undefeated or 11-1, yes, Notre Dame still should have won it, but that loss doesn't look nearly as bad. Like if Northern Illinois ends up making the college football playoff, that loss doesn't look as bad for Notre Dame, right? Secondly, like we mentioned with college basketball, you lose a bad game early, like Notre Dame just lost a game early, and you win a bunch of big games, try to at least win a bunch of big games down the road to bury that loss. It still happened. It still affects you a little bit. Might knock you down a seed line or two. Instead of being a 2 seed, you're a 3 seed or whatever. But you look at it and you go, okay, that was early in the year with a bunch of new players, or this player was hurt or whatever. But look what they've done lately. They beat this top 25 team. They won on the road like this, whatever. And that's what I think the committee would do for Notre Dame. Oh, yeah, that Northern Illinois loss is bad. But Texas A&M, who they beat by 10 on the road, actually finished 8-4, 9-3. That's not bad. That's not bad. Oh, yeah, and Louisville, who they beat, is the ACC runner-up. Okay. Oh, yeah, and USC, who they just beat in the season finale, yeah, they're a 9-win team in the Big Ten this year. With a top 25 win on the road, right? So, there's opportunities to bury those bad performances. That's why even back in the BCS era, it was always, if you're going to lose a game, especially if it's going to be a bad loss, do it early. Do it early because you have a lot of time to make up for it, and you have a lot of time to try to make people forget. Whereas if you're 11-0 and you lose your season finale, It's fresh on people's mind. It plummets you in the rankings. You have no time to try to work your way back up. Prime example, and this wasn't a bad loss, Alabama last year. They lose to Texas in week 2 by 10 in Tuscaloosa. That's not a bad loss. Texas was obviously a very good team. But if that same loss had happened in the second to last week of November, Alabama probably doesn't make the college football play. I know they beat Georgia in the SEC championship. I get that. I get that. But Alabama had the whole rest of the season to work their way back up into the rankings and into the minds of the committee and into our hearts, believing they could be a playoff team. And that's exactly what they did. Whereas, again, if you lose late, you have no time. So Notre Dame, you've got time. Time's on your side. Time is your friend. But Marcus Freeman, will you take advantage of it? That's a $1 million question. Will Notre Dame take advantage of it? Will they come through? That is the $1 million question. Obviously, the frustrating thing for us as fans. College football is tough, man. It's a game of patience. I hate Tuesdays and Wednesdays, at least early on, because there's no football on. It hurts. Thursday, we've got NFL football and a couple of college games. Obviously, Friday, college games. Saturdays, all day college. Pros on Sunday, pros on Monday. But until we get that midweek Maction or that midweek Conference USA, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are hard, which is why I love these Wednesday night live streams. It gives me something to do at night that still pertains to football. That's why I really enjoy it. But it's tough, man. It's tough. Let's see. Again, phones are open. Don't be shy. We only received 2 calls tonight. Come on now. 870-955, right there across the bottom. 870-955-4797. Phone lines are open, but in the meantime, still got the chat. Loving what we're seeing. Alex, good name. Do you think my Spartans have a chance against Boston College? And do you think Michigan State should be ranked if they beat Boston College? No, they should not be ranked. Yes, they have a chance. Michigan State has exceeded my expectations already. I did not think they would beat Maryland a couple weeks ago. So that's already a better start to the season than I thought. And credit to Jonathan Smith for that. Jonathan Smith is a heck of a coach. He's a program builder. Never thought he was going to be a miracle worker. And I think Michigan State's going to struggle in conference play. Alex, I hate to tell you, I really do. But from what I've seen over the first few weeks, credit to him and credit to having this team more prepared and more competitive than I thought they'd be. So against Boston College, yeah, because I'm worried about Boston College a little bit. That loss to Missouri was heartbreaking. They were playing great football early on. We're up 14-3, and then just got shut down after that. Got outscored 24-7 the rest of the way. So that was a very winnable game for Boston College. A chance for Bill O'Brien to get an early statement win over his second top 10 opponent of the year. I know Florida State's not there anymore, but they were at the time. So are they motivated? I think it's the red bandana game, though. So that's enough, should be enough motivation as it is. But I'm excited for this game because I'm really interested to see the ground attack for both teams. Boston, 2 mobile quarterbacks, Childs and Castellanos. Michigan State, obviously a team that wants to run the ball, but has exceeded all of our offensive expectations. Boston College is obviously a team that really wants to run the ball. So which defense truly steps up? My gut would say Boston College, especially with home field advantage, but crazy things happen, man. Michigan State already has proved me wrong once. I'm not opposed to them proving me wrong again. So I don't think they're going to win. I don't think they should be ranked if they win, but I do think they have a chance. I'm not expecting a massive blowout by any means in Chestnut Hill. So good to see you, man, and congrats on a better start to the year than many people maybe expected. Scotty, good to see you, man. Nice to have you, Scotty. Hope you're doing well. Do I think Baylor starts Sawyer Robertson, at quarterback, especially after DeQuan Finn struggled in the first 2 games? No, not yet. Scotty, not yet. I think Baylor's fine for now. But DeQuan Finn was always a big risk getting him out of the transfer portal. He's got tremendous upside, as you've seen, but also tremendous downside, as you've seen. And I will just never forget those Toledo teams that would win 9, 10, 11 games, and they'd make the MAC championship game, or they'd go to a bowl game ranked, a big-time bowl, and DeQuan Finn just failed to deliver. It was in the biggest moments, he just forgot how to play football. He's mobile, but he doesn't always like to run. he's got a great arm, but yet he's wildly inaccurate at times. So it's like you never know which quarterback you're going to get with DeQuan Finn. And that's, I'm not a Toledo fan, but like watching him back then was always so frustrating. So I can only imagine your frustration at Baylor. But he's still will argue he's the best quarterback on the roster right now. And so if you're Dave Aranda, as you enter the bulk of conference play, is that the move you really want to make? Is that the move you want to make as you head on the road to Colorado? A Colorado team that's so beatable. It's so beatable if you have a good defense. And so far, Baylor's defense has been solid. It really has. So, do you want to make that move on the road against a winnable Colorado team? Or do you maybe make that move when you've got a week of rest, when you've got a week to give Sully Robertson the more reps with the first team? I don't think you sub out Finn yet. I really don't. Or at least they shouldn't. Until you give him a horrible reason to ride with him. He's the best quarterback on the roster. And I think, surprisingly, he gives you the best chance to beat Colorado this Saturday. Which is maybe not saying much. I don't know. Let's see here. Great question, Scotty. You also agree that Florida is not going to make a bowl game. I think we can all agree that for sure. And we all agree with that. Let's see here. Big Bucks fan. Does Michigan have 4 more losses this year? We've already got one. And we'll talk about some of the top 25 matchups here in a second. Those were a couple of our talking points. I thought we'd get on the phone calls, 870-955-4797. But again, no worries. We'll talk about them on our own. But it's not looking good because USC is a very losable game. They're favored. The Trojans are in the big house. Obviously, Michigan's going to be a pretty big underdog to Ohio State. They're probably going to be an underdog to Oregon. So, I mean, if they lose all 3 of those games, that puts them at 4 losses. And then they've got a couple other trap games in there. Illinois is not going to be easy for them. I don't have Michigan's schedule memorized off the top of my head, but a lot of more tough games ahead of them, some of which are against top 15, top 10 opponents. And they just don't have what it takes to keep up with them. So unless Alex Orji just comes out and lights it up this Saturday, or unless Sharon Moore comes up with some amazing game plan, I might actually say that Michigan finishes with 4 more losses this year, which would be a crazy turn of events for the reigning national champions. But again, kind of the world we live in college football, where when you have this much turnover, it's hard to immediately turn around and continue to compete. I think we all expected Michigan. I think the thing with Michigan is none of us expected them to be this bad on offense. We knew the defense was going to be fine, and we knew there was going to be a quarterback battle. But when they didn't go out and get anybody in the portal of noteworthy, of notice, I think we just all assumed, they've got this under control. Alex Orji seems like he could be good, dual threat quarterback. That's going to work great. Sharon Moore was there as the offensive coordinator. He knows this team. He knows what's capable of them. They're going to be great. Or, all right, Davis Warren, fine. You think he's better? Cool. Jack Tuttle. I think we all thought that Michigan was going to be fine because they promoted the coach from within. He knew the team. He specifically knew the offense. They had Donovan Edwards back at running back. The offensive line was going to be solid per usual. Like all these things. And they just haven't been that. They've been the furthest thing from that. No one, I think, expected the offense, especially the quarterback, to be this bad. Again, it's just kind of shocking, but once again shows the world of college football that we're in, and honestly, maybe the importance of the transfer portal. You need to go rally your troops and get as many guys in there as you can, because sometimes things don't turn out or pan out the way you want them to. Ask Michigan, just ask Florida State. They went and got themselves a transfer quarterback and DJ Uiagalelei. Maybe should have gotten themselves 1 or 2 more in the event that guy doesn't pan out, and obviously he has not. So I do think it's going to be a very rough year for Michigan. They're 2-1, but their game against USC, which we'll talk about here shortly, I don't think is going to go well. Dougie, it's always an honor. Right back at you, my guy. It really is. I appreciate you always being here. Any thoughts on the Pac-2 becoming the Pac-6? I'm happy about it. I was curious what was going to happen to Washington State and Oregon, because the setup they've got now, we all knew wasn't sustainable. Being a practically an honorary member of the Mountain West wasn't going to fly for this team or those teams for the foreseeable future. They had to join a conference or become an independent, I guess, but there's not much money there. So, what were they going to do? And so now the fact that we've got a lot of the Mountain West leaving to, reform the Pac-6, and inevitably the Pac-12 or Pac-8, whatever, how many teams they get is massive. And it's an intriguing conference. They kind of took some of the better teams of the Mountain West, pairing them with teams in Washington State and Oregon to make what I actually think is going to be a pretty competitive conference, and one that's, if I'm not mistaken, will get a member into the college football playoff every single year, guaranteed, as a conference champion. I think they're going to classify that as a power conference. If I'm not mistaken, this is not going to be like the Mountain West 2.0 where it's the highest ranked Pac champion goes. No, it's going to be the champion of the Pac, whatever, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, who cares, will go to the playoffs. So you are guaranteed a team like Washington State, Boise State, Oregon State. So that's a great, maybe they're going to get thrashed every year. Who knows? But what that's going to do with that incentive for those teams, it's going to help recruiting tremendously. Like, knowing as a player that if I go play for one of those schools, maybe they're not as big brand as a team in the Big Ten or the SEC, but knowing that if I go play for them, I've got a chance to make the college football playoff, or we can win the conference. Arguably, it's a relatively weak conference. That's a good recruiting pitch, especially if you're one of the top dogs like Washington State's expected to be, like Boise State's expected to be. So I'm really happy that kind of came to fruition. I'm glad that's happening. I'm happy for Washington State and Oregon State because I really feel that they got the raw end of that deal. It was a very negative thing to happen to them and a wrong thing to happen to them. So I'm kind of happy they're going to land back on their feet. And honestly, I think they're in a better spot. They're going to end up in a better position with this setup than they would have been had the Pac-12 stayed together. Because let's be honest, Washington State and Oregon State, they weren't going to go win the Pac-12. It wasn't going to happen. They had some good years here and there, but they were never going to make the playoffs. They were never going to compete with Oregon and Utah and USC and at one point UCLA, and it just wasn't going to happen. Now they can compete. They can compete at the highest level, and they've got an opportunity to go to quality bowl games, the playoff, and things like that. So I actually think this works out better for the Pac-2 and really a great deal for those Mountain West teams that are coming over too. So I think it's a win-win for everybody. Win-win for the power conferences, for those programs, for us as college football fans. It's a great deal. That's my take on it. UCF, what's my take? Congratulations on your big comeback win over TCU. That was pretty impressive, pretty gutsy. 21 points on the road. I mean, that's massive. I've always said that UCF was kind of the dark horse in the Big 12 this year. I've always felt that way. I felt that they had the offensive mind in Gus Malzahn, transfer quarterback in KJ Jefferson, if he could actually be a competent quarterback and just a good person. Which I really don't think he was much of either at Arkansas, especially the last year he was there. And so if he could kind of, fix himself, they had the running backs, they had the receivers, they had the coach, the offense was great, the defense was going to get improved. So I've always said UCF was kind of that dark horse team in the Big 12 this year. And that win over TCU, although it wasn't pretty, kind of proved me right on that. I mean, that's a massive, massive way to kick off conference play. The schedule lines up relatively favorably for UCF, to the point where maybe they could contend for a spot in the Big 12 title game, because that conference is wide open and is already shaping up to be crazier than I think we ever thought. Kansas isn't nearly as good as we thought they were going to be. I don't know what's happening down in Lawrence, but they are struggling mightily. Got beat by Illinois, got beat by UNLV. They're done for. Oklahoma State is very vulnerable. We saw that after what Arkansas did to them a few weeks ago. Yeah, the Cowboys got the win. They should have lost. They got some glaring issues there. And when they actually play competent teams like maybe Utah, Kansas State, Iowa State, whoever it may be, those type of teams aren't going to make the same stupid mistakes that Arkansas made. And they would win those games. If that had been any other team doing what Arkansas had done to Oklahoma State, they would have won. Oklahoma State would not have won. So, Kansas isn't great. Oklahoma State is very beatable. Utah is great. Can Cam Rising stay healthy for the entire season? That remains to be seen. The guy's made of glass. I mean, one wrong hit and he's out for the year again, and Utah's hopes are done. So, Kansas State's still legit. Iowa State's still legit. UCF absolutely is legit. It is a wide open conference in the Big 12, and UCF, in my opinion, is in the thick of it. So very excited to see kind of how that plays out. But again, that win over TCU was huge, huge, huge. Very, very big for them. Brady, do I think Dion's squad is crumbling from forcing the band not to play the fight song for Shadir's rap song, the O-line being publicly berated by teammates, and just simply the fact they're no good? Yeah, I could probably spend 2 hours giving you my take on. I'm gonna take that off because you can hardly see me. I could probably spend 2 hours talking about Dion Sanders in Colorado, man. To me, it's just a joke. It's a joke. They're entertaining for some. For me, they're not. Shedeur Sanders, to me, is the furthest thing from a leader. I don't care who you are. I don't care how bad your offensive line is. You do not ever go out there and I don't care. I don't even care what it is. You don't publicly berate your teammates like that, you know? And I know he didn't immediately, but he was basically like asking the press, like, well, how many times did Raiola get hit? Like, basically, I had a bad performance because my offensive line was bad. Raiola had a good performance because his offensive line was good. That's what he was alluding to. It was clear as day to anybody that watched it and heard it. You don't do that, man. You don't do that. You got to pick up your teammates. And basically, this is not, Colorado. This is just Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. That's all it is, right? And that's what Dion Sanders wants it to be, right? It's the Shedeur Sanders and the Travis Hunter show. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter University. That's it. That's all it is. And mark my words, Brady. I would not be shocked in the slightest. Is after this year, when Shedeur goes pro and when Travis goes pro, Dion hangs it up and says, I'm out of here too. This has been a great marketing ploy by Dion Sanders. He is in the news 24/7. People are talking about him. They're getting a lot of money. Colorado's gotten a lot of money. So once he gets his kids where he needs them to be, he's like, I'm out. I've made my money. Maybe I go take another job at another lower school like he did at Jackson State where there were no expectations whatsoever and it was pretty stress-free and he could do whatever the heck he wanted and wasn't having to play the big dogs. But Colorado's not going bowling this year. They're not going to make a bowl game. They're never going to compete with the way he's running the program. They're never going to be a true Big 12 title contender or a playoff contender. It's never going to happen. The way he runs his program, the way he treats his players, and the way they operate in Boulder right now will never lead to success. It's just not going to happen. If you want to consider success 6-6, good for you. But if you want to measure success by championships, it's never going to happen. Never going to happen. So it would not surprise me for him to get Shedeur and Travis drafted in the top 10, get his money, show that he did it, send his kids. I mean, I'm done. You know what? If he wants to do that, that's great. Good for him. The bottom line is, it is kind of a clown show in Boulder right now. From the way they like you said, how they handle the music, how with the fight song versus the rap song, how they treat their players. I mean, you ask any coach around the country. You ask any coach around the country to go out there and name their backup center's name. I guarantee they can do it. Dion Sanders probably doesn't know anybody's names outside of the Sanders and Travis Hunter. Doesn't know it. We saw that case last year. Some guy asked him about a linebacker or a kicker, and he was like, "Who are you talking about?" And he goes, like your starting linebacker. Oh yeah. There's just so many players' names I couldn't remember. Shut up. I mean, he's not a coach, man. He's a great marketer. He's a great marketer, but he's not a coach. And you know what? Sue me. Fight me on that. Go for it. But the track record speaks for itself. 4-8 last year. They're on pace to go 4-8 again this year. They're not a good team. They don't have a good culture in Boulder right now. It's great they're bringing in money. It's great they're being talked about. But you know what? Like Dan Lanning said last year, all the clicks and the social media interactions and the media interactions they're getting on Fox and ESPN and all that, that doesn't lead to wins. Other teams play for wins. They play for pride. They play, for their fans. That means nothing to Dion Sanders in Colorado. It just doesn't. So they're not going to amount to anything. They're not going to do anything good in Boulder. They're not going to do anything worthwhile in Boulder. And bottom line is, Colorado, the Colorado management is going to have to face this because here's the thing: when Shedeur Sanders leaves, who they got at quarterback? Is he going to go get someone from the high school ranks? Is he going to get someone from the transfer portal? Those are two huge holes that are being left by Colorado that are not easy fixes. So you can't expect Colorado they're not competing now with that kind of talent. Do you really think they're going to compete next year without that type of talent? Not a chance. So if you're the Colorado administration, do you draw the line and go, hey, Dion, we appreciate the fact that you have increased our season tickets and you've increased our budget and you've increased everything, but when are you going to start winning? And if you can't start winning, we might have to let you go. Like, has anyone ever thought about that? Like, if Colorado once again has a losing record this year, that Dion might get one more year. And if he goes a third year with a losing record, they might want to get rid of him. And Dion's not the type of guy to me that's going to want to get fired. Like, he's the type of guy that would do things on his own terms. Like, kind of like a breakup. Like, you don't break up with me, I break up with you, you know? Like, I feel like that's how he would treat it with Colorado. Like, you will not fire me, I will fire you, or I will leave on my own terms based on my decision. It would be my, you know, whatever it is. And it'll probably be a mutually part ways or whatever. I don't know. Bottom line is, it's so funny to me hearing people hype up Colorado, pumping up, you know, sunshine everywhere, thinking all's well, when it's staring you right in the face that it's not. It's not. No other program does this. No other program gets the type of media treatment like Colorado does. And it's funny because we spend so much time talking about a team that's 4-8. 4-8. And it's probably going to go the same. Maybe 5-7. Congrats, you've improved. If you go 5-7, you improve by a game. But regardless, a team that's not going to do anything worthwhile other than get a lot of likes on social media. About it. So, excuse that rant. But yeah, I think his tenure is going to be pretty short, whether it's his own decision or whether they kind of slowly force him out. It's not going to end well in Boulder. It's just not. It's just not. Great question. Great question. Let's see what's on the stream, man. Eddie's here. Good to see you, Eddie. Austin Burns, Austin Pruitt. Good to have you. Nice to have you here. My man Travis, good to have you, Travis. Nice to have you. Walters, good to see you here. My man Clement. I don't know if I said hi to you, Clement, but I'm happy to have you. Clement, love to have you back on our expert picks this year, my guy. Trying to help us reach our goal. Get us up to 53 tonight. Get us up to 53 tonight. We'd love to have you, Clement, but as always, appreciate you and all of your support. Again, if we can get 3 expert picks signups tonight, we'll have reached our goal for today. I think we'll be at 60 by next Wednesday's live stream, which means we could be at 100 before we know it, which means 24-hour live stream. 24-hour live stream. So sign up. We'd love to have you on board. We want you a part of the team. We're going to keep pumping it. I know you guys might get tired of it. I know it, but it's what we got to do. Call me Dion. I'm trying to market here. But we'd love to have you on our team. It's going to be the best decision you make. We can promise you that. We'd really love it. And if you don't want to do it, that's all right. Spread the word. Spread the word. Get some of your friends over that would be interested and help us reach our goal. But we'd still like to try to get a few tonight. Definitely would. Jerry, good to see you, man. Happy to have you here. Happy to have you here, my guy. Hope you're doing well. Hope baby Tabitha's doing well. Again, congratulations again. Just so happy for you and so pumped, not just for your family, but for your football teams, man. Syracuse is going to be great. I'm really excited for their game on Friday night. I think they're going to stick it to Stanford. I feel confident about that. Apartment's getting better. I'll pull that up again. This is what we dealt with last Wednesday. The reason we didn't have a live stream last Wednesday is because the entire apartment just flooded. Thanks to the maintenance department, I should say. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't an accident. The maintenance, it was an accident, but they triggered a line up in the wall and just like a waterfall, man. It was crazy. It wasn't like sprinkles. It was just like gallons and gallons and gallons of water that shot out and just completely covered. I'll take that banner down too. Completely covered the floors, a couple inches deep. Couches are shot. Chairs shot. Luckily, the big football watching TV and the PS5 were salvaged. Don't know how that's possible. You can see how close the water got to them. Not sure how it was possible, but I'll take it. Thank God. So priorities, right? Priorities. Laptops were saved. TV was saved. PS5 was saved. But furniture, coffee table, things like that were pretty much going to be beyond repair. So hopefully our insurance will come through. But apartment's doing good. Still got a couple things to clean up. Still a little messy to the left of me here, but we're getting by. Thank you for checking in. I appreciate that. Really, really do. Call-in number is still open, guys. We're still going live for a little while. Probably still got about another 30 minutes or so. So 870-955-4797, number across the bottom. If you want to give us a call, we'd love to have you to talk about whatever is on your mind. I appreciate Hunter and Brady for calling in earlier today. Great calls, guys. Per usual from you two, of course. Always fantastic to hear from you. Continuing through our comments, though. Let's see here. See who we have on here. Eddie, this is an interesting comment. What do I think of Drinkwitz being rumored to Florida? I'm not worried because if it was Auburn, I would be worried. He worked there in 2010. Yeah, I wouldn't be worried about that either, Eddie. I actually, honestly, I haven't even heard those rumors. I hadn't heard the rumors about Drinkwitz being linked to Florida. So this is actually kind of news to me. But I'll tell you, we're getting a call. Eddie, I'll come back and answer it. 1 second. All right, I think I heard the name on the phone. Is this Cyrus?
Yes.
Hey, what's going on, Cyrus? How you doing?
Hey, I'm a big fan of yours, and I finally started to decided to join in. I was wondering, what do you think about A&M and Baylor?
You asked that question there. We'll put it up on the screen. Yeah, great question. Well, Cyrus, first-time caller. We appreciate you calling in, man. I appreciate all of your support. Really, truly, I'm happy to have you as a part of our team, man. To answer your question, two really interesting teams. A&M is a team. I think the jury's still out on them. They, got beat by Notre Dame in week 1, beat like McNeese the next week, which means nothing. And then how much stock can you really put into their win against Florida, considering how bad Florida is? So not really completely sold on A&M just yet. They've got to figure out their quarterback position, whether it's the backup that started last week against the Gators or whether they stick with Wigman, who really hasn't been all that great. So I think you're going to learn more about A&M over the next few weeks. They've got Arkansas in 2 weeks. They've got Missouri in College Station shortly after that. So like how they fare in those first couple conference games really will show what they're made of. And honestly, the same for Baylor. Give Baylor some credit. They already look better through 3 games than they did almost all of last season. The offense has definitely improved drastically. New coordinator, new quarterbacks. The defense, Dave Aranda-led team, obviously, is typically pretty strong. The only loss so far is on the road to Utah, which is a very difficult place to play. And Baylor held their own in that game. Colorado on Saturday will be very telling for Baylor. Like, that's a winnable game. It's honestly a game that Baylor probably should win. They have the better defense. I think Colorado owns the better offense, but Baylor can match them if DeQuan Finn plays a clean game. So I'm expecting Baylor to flirt with bowl eligibility. But how they look this Saturday in Boulder will be very telling.
Yeah, I definitely understand, because I remember last season I was at the football game for Baylor, being on the Baylor student, and it was a town year.
Yeah, no, it's look, I really I like Baylor, man. I'm a big fan of Aranda. I'm a big fan of their program. Been to Waco many times, and I want them to succeed. But last year was you knew last year was going to be bad when they lost to Texas State.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, it was not pretty.
But they did TJ Finley.
Yes, very true. Yeah. I mean, Texas State surprised all of us. I mean, it was a sign of bad things to come for Baylor, but a sign of great things to come for G.J. Kinney and the Bobcats. And I know Finley's not there anymore, but Texas State's still one of the best teams in the Sun Belt. So Kinney's going to be a guy that's going to be at a Power 4 school next year. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I'm also like 50-50 on Baylor hiring TCU former head coach.
Oh, you're talking about Gary Patterson?
Yeah.
Hey, I think it's a good pickup, man. I mean, Patterson was one of the best in the business. It's always good to have another head coach on your staff in any capacity.
Understandable. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Cyrus.
All right.
Boom. Just like that. That's how you do it, my friend. Cyrus, thank you for the call. First-time caller. Hope it's not the last. Hope to have you next week after that. Who knows, man? We'd love to have you back on the stream. But thank you for calling in. And A&M and Baylor, former Big 12 rivals, wanted to get a little take on them. But great to hear from you. Great to hear from you. I was answering Eddie's question, which was here. Bottom line is, I don't think Drinkwitz is going to Florida. I think you're safe from that. I know Florida's number one target is going to be Lane Kiffin. The question is, would Kiffin take that job? Now, how cool would it be if Florida got Urban Meyer back? That would be something. reunion for Meyer down in Gainesville. Don't see that happening either. But that, one kid. It's always funny to see the guys that are rumored for a new job. Fan bases kind of get a little unrealistic. Oh, we're going to go hire this like Super Bowl champion. Like, mark my words, when I guarantee you, whether it's in the next few months or once the season's over, like, Bill Belichick will be linked to certain college jobs. Like, I guarantee it, because that's just how ridiculous fans get sometimes. It's like, Belichick's on the market. We're going to hire him. We'll offer him anything. Like, Belichick does not care one bit, man. If anything, he wants to get back in the NFL for like 2 seasons so he can break the all-time win record. But bottom line, it's just funny to see like the short list. Like, who's truly a candidate to be the new coach at whatever school? And the list is sometimes just outrageous. And it's fun to speculate for us as fans. Bottom line is, the only people that know are the people making the hire. You can't trust the media because they don't know. The guys on Twitter that go, my reports say that so-and-so is meeting with the AD today. My reports say that he's on a plane. They can tweet whatever the heck they want. They just spread misinformation, man. No one truly knows what's happening except for the guys behind closed doors. Drinkwitz maybe does, Eddie, I hate to tell you this, it would be a step up for Drinkwitz. He stays in the same conference, but the resources and the money at Florida is going to be significantly greater than that at Missouri. So maybe Drinkwitz would consider doing that. But considering he spent a lot of his time kind of in the central part of the South, went to school in Arkansas, coached at Arkansas State a little bit. I know Arkansas at one point was his dream job, but obviously hates the Razorbacks now, probably because they passed on him a few times. I know he went a little further east and coached at App State. I understand that, but now at Missouri. So kind of that central part, not so much more of an Eastern guy. Don't think he'd go to Florida. Maybe you would be concerned with Auburn, like you said, but Auburn's not going to be hiring a new coach anytime soon, even though Hugh Freeze is disappointing everybody. So the rumors are news to me, but I think you can rest assured. I don't think he's going from Missouri to Florida. Maybe somewhere else, but not to Florida. Not to Florida. Austin Pruitt, good to see you. I'm glad to have you here, man. He said he was at work, but wanted to pop in for a second. Anything is better than nothing, my guy. Anything's better than nothing. Hey, as we're on it, like the stream. We've got it kicking across the bottom. We have a handful of people on now. We've had a lot of people comment. Like the stream if you haven't already, and subscribe if you haven't already. The majority of you guys are subscribers, longtime viewers, longtime callers, and we're thrilled to have you. But spread the word, man. Help us reach that expert picks goal. Haven't gotten any tonight like we hoped for, but there's still time. And there's still time after the show. There's still time between now and next Wednesday. Hopefully, when we come back next Wednesday, that 52 has increased to a higher number. Time will tell. But spread the word, man. Like, comment, subscribe. Spread the word. Spread the word about the channel and the live stream, the videos. Hit that notification bell if you haven't. We want to continue to grow this channel, man. We really, really do. And you guys are a big part of that and a big reason why we can do that. Walter, nice to have you, man. It's been a minute. We've been talking about Notre Dame quite a bit. Brady mentioned it a few times in the chat, but also when he called in. Yes, if they win out, they will make the playoff. I feel very confident in that. They might not get to host a playoff game, but that's fine. Do you really care about that? Like, yeah, you'd rather get to host, but getting in is better than not being in at all. So if Notre Dame wins out, they will, in fact, make the playoff. That Northern Illinois loss will kind of be an afterthought. So, you got nothing to worry about there. Win out. Do it convincingly, too. Some of the bigger games, you need to win convincingly and not leave much room for doubt. You'll be set. You think it's time for them to join the Big Ten or the ACC? Kind of in agreement with you on that. I know Notre Dame's big on their money, and they've got that great deal with Peacock and NBC and things like that. But I agree with you. I think we have seen already in the playoff era a few instances where Notre Dame has been put in a very bad spot because they don't have the benefit of a conference championship. So especially with the 4-team playoff, when Notre Dame lost one game, you knew their season was about done in terms of their playoff hopes. There was no way to redeem themselves with a conference championship, which they could then hold over other teams. It was basically, because the argument then was always, hey, Notre Dame's sitting at 11-1. They're not playing for a conference title. Should a team get punished for having to play in their conference championship? Like, if Alabama is ahead of Notre Dame and say they're undefeated, but they lose their conference championship and go 12-1, does Notre Dame jump Alabama? Because if Alabama didn't have you know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes the argument was those teams would get punished for playing an extra game while Notre Dame would just get to sit back. And, I have differing opinions on that because I think we saw it happen multiple times. There were multiple years where Ohio State got in when they didn't even play for their conference championship. They didn't even make the conference championship game. So I don't really believe that type of argument, but still, that you get the point. I think it would be a good idea. I think the ACC is going to fall apart quicker than people realize. With the state of college football the way it is right now, with the ever-revolving door of the realignment and just the conferences and the NIL and the money deals and everything and media rights deals, the ACC is going to fall apart. Clemson's not happy there. Florida State's not happy there. And you'll begin to see a domino effect, kind of like you did in the Pac-12, where two teams are unhappy, they want to leave. And then other big brands in the conference realize they can't sustain themselves alone. So, for example, if Florida State and Clemson both go, we want out, we're leaving the ACC, a team like Miami is going to go, yeah, we want out too. You know what I'm saying? Like, we want out too. So that's kind of one of those things where I think the ACC is going to fall apart quicker than people realize, which means if Notre Dame is going to join a conference, they should join the Big Ten. The problem is the Big Ten is already up to 18 teams, which is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. So what do you do in that instance? What do you do then? So I don't know. It's going to be it's interesting to see how it plays out. It'll be very interesting to see how it plays out. Great question though. Great question though, Walter. I appreciate seeing you, man. It's been a minute. Let's see. Scrolling through the chat. On to the chat here. Let's see what else we've got. I don't know if we're missing anybody. Let me text. We missed a call. I don't know if it was intentional or not. Let me double check. Sometimes you can never tell. Let's see. Got a couple of fun comments there we're going to get to. I want to keep moving my way down there. Let's see here. I like when you guys kind of banter in the chat on your own. It's always kind of fun to see. I like what Brady said there. Colorado is more of an I, me, mine type of team instead of we, us, and ours. So I agree with you on that. It's a very selfish mindset kind of happening in Boulder. And, as the case, saying it before, say it again, 5-star talent, 5-star culture. Colorado does not have a 5-star culture right now. Those programs are built from the top down. Starts with the head coach. And that's not going to, if Colorado ever wants to truly win and be successful, Dion's not the guy. Again, if you want to brag about the recruits you get, if you want to brag about the social media followers and season tickets and this and that, Dion's your man. He's going to keep you in the news. If you just want to be talked about, Dion's your guy. But if you actually want to win, he's not your guy. He's not your guy. So, I mean, that's up to you. Up to you on how you want to handle it. Let's see here. Christian, good to see you, Christian. Happy to have you here. How confident am I on Louisville for the rest of the season? Very. I like this Louisville team a lot. Now, I say very with a caveat. I want to see what they do against Georgia Tech. Louisville's the better team against Georgia Tech. I predict Louisville will beat Georgia Tech. I do believe that. But what does it look like? Do they blow them out? Is it a similar game like last year where they were down by 15 at halftime before rallying to win 39-34? Like, what are we going to see out of Louisville Saturday against a Georgia Tech team that's certainly way more battle-tested than Louisville, who's played, Austin Peay and Jacksonville State? Georgia Tech's at least played Syracuse, Florida State, somewhat competitive game against Georgia State, who beat Vanderbilt. Like, they've played better teams than Louisville has played. So it's going to by far be the best offense that Louisville has faced so far this year. So I'm very confident in Louisville. They were the ACC runner-up last year. I think they can get back to the ACC championship this year, considering how crazy that conference is. I think Miami feels like a lock to get there. It's just a matter of who the Hurricanes are going to play. But I love Jeff Fromm. He's got a very good offense, per usual. The defense, once again, severely underrated. So I feel very, very confident in them. But I want to see what they look like on Saturday against Georgia Tech. That will tell me a lot about what to expect over the rest of the year. But I would not be shocked to see them compete for a double-digit win season this year. Not at all. Great question, Christian. Happy to have you, man. Very happy to have you. Let's see here. We slowly wrap up tonight. We've got a couple of last comments to address before we wrap up the stream tonight and move on. Max, good to see you, Max. It has been a very long time. Very long time. I hope you're doing well. I can't remember the last time I saw your name pop up, man. I hope you're doing great. Got a winner in Kalen DeBoer. They're doing great stuff, man. I don't know how you felt about Nick Saban leaving Tuscaloosa, retiring for good, but DeBoer was a proven winner. He was a great hire. We saw that so far this season. The win against Wisconsin, I know it's just Wisconsin, but that was a really big win in Madison, and I am ecstatic for their game against Georgia coming up in 2 weeks? Not this Saturday, but the next Saturday. That's going to be the true measuring stick, right? They should win, big going forward after that, but the Georgia game is going to be very, very telling. And then Tuscaloosa at night, top 5 matchup. Oh man, it's going to be great. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. So hope you're doing well. I appreciate you and all your support. Know it's been a while, but we're happy to have you on board. Happy to have you as part of the team. Doesn't really matter whether you're here now, later. It's been a year or two. You're always welcome. Always welcome on the streams, on the videos. And we got to stay in touch, man. Got to stay in touch. Britt Hall. Does Florida State move to the MAC to remain competitive? I say, why not? Honestly, why not? I think, you know what, Britt? I think we should have and I know you don't like soccer. I know you could give 2 flips about soccer, but I think we should have a relegation system where we just take every disappointing team every year. The sorriest team. What do we got? We got 4 power conferences. So what if we took the 2 sorriest programs from each power conference? This year there's 8. 4 power conferences would be 8 teams. 2 sorriest teams and put them into an 8-team playoff. And the top 2 teams that make it to the championship of this tournament, this 8-team tournament, survive and stay alive, while the other 6 are relegated, maybe not to, FCS Division II level, but maybe a lower conference. Whereas then we promote some of the top conference. You know what I'm saying? So like the top MAC teams would go to the ACC or whatever. So this year we'll take Florida State. We'll take your alma mater, Mississippi State, and we could take them and send them to that 8-team playoff after their bad loss to Toledo. I think that's a fair trade. Florida State, Mississippi State, that's a bowl game I'd watch. But good to see you, Britt. I'm happy to have you here. I think the move to the MAC's fantastic. I think that's exactly what we need. Honestly, they wouldn't fare very well in there. I think Toledo would give them a run for their money. I think Northern Illinois would give them a run for their money. Bowling Green would give them a run for their money. Like, I literally this year don't think Florida State would fare very well in the MAC. I really don't. The MAC is a deeper conference than it's been in a long, long time. Miami, Ohio, not bad. So honestly, there is you put Florida State in the MAC this year, Britt, and you're not even that far off. I don't even know if they'd come out of there with a winning record in conference play, with as bad as a team as we've seen. I really don't think they would. That sounds ridiculous, but I don't think they would. Toledo, Miami, Ohio, Northern Illinois, Bowling Green, Western Michigan nearly beat Wisconsin in week 1 in Madison. They've got a really good offense. Man, what else? I mean, there's some talent there. There's some talent there. So especially, again, 5-star culture, 5-star talent. Max got the culture. Good to see you, Britt. Good to see you. We'll talk soon. I like that. I like that question. Last few here before we wrap things up tonight. Let's see. I'll take a few. Wolfle. I haven't seen you very often on the chat, so I'm good to have you. Happy to see you. Is Cal fraudulent? Yes and no. Right? Like Cal was always going to be like a 7-win team max, maybe 8 if they pull off an upset, which the Auburn win was an upset, so maybe that's what they needed. I don't think they're fraudulent in the sense of like they're not a bowl team, but they're not great, right? Like they have mediocre quarterback play. The running game was supposed to be good, but Jaden Knott has kind of been hampered this year. The defense traditionally under Wilcox is pretty strong. Like he's a defensive-minded guy, so like that's not a surprise to see them doing so well on the defensive side of the ball. Florida State will be telling, right? I mean, California has to travel all the way from California to Florida State this Saturday. They are very slight underdogs, like 2-point underdogs to the Seminoles. So that's going to be here's the funny thing. If Cal loses that game, everybody's going to point fingers like Cal's terrible, they're fraudulent. I actually think Florida State's going to win that game, surprisingly. I hate to say it because I kind of don't mind seeing Florida State continue to lose a couple of games. Like, it's one of those things, but I have nothing against them. But it's like, how long can this team go without a win? Like, are we going to see Florida State, like this big name of a program, reach like 0-6, 0-7? Like, could we see that? Like, again, I don't want it for their fans, but part of me is like, man, this would be kind of funny to watch. Like, and I'd feel that way about any team. I'd feel that way about Ohio State or, any power program. Like honestly, how long can we go for a team that is supposed to be this blue blood elite program? How long can we go seeing them with a goose egg in the win column? I don't think Cal's fraudulent, but I don't think they're legit. Like, I don't think they are true ACC title contenders. I don't think they're going to flirt with like a big bowl game. It's going to level out as they go, although they do play in a weak conference in the ACC, so I wouldn't put anything past them. But they're going to go to a bowl, and that's really all you should expect from Justin Wilcox. Might be enough to save his job, but that's really all you should expect. Scotty, who wins? West Virginia, Kansas. Two very disappointing teams already this year. My gut says West Virginia. My gut says West Virginia. Jalen Daniels has been terrible. I don't know if he's still suffering from some effects of his injuries last year. Maybe he's just not as good as we thought he was, but he has looked horrible this season. All three games, terrible. Terrible against UNLV, terrible against Illinois, terrible against Lindenwood, whoever they played in week one. I mean, it's just been a really bad start to the year for Jalen Daniels at quarterback. West Virginia's at home in Morgantown. They've got a great rushing attack. Kansas has a terrible rushing defense. I like West Virginia in that game. And that's massive. I mean, they're both 1-2. So this is a big, big, big game for these programs in terms of, trying to steady things out as they enter the bulk of conference play. The loser can go ahead and wrap up their season. And honestly, if West Virginia loses, that might seal Neil Brown's fate, because I don't see the Mountaineers turning things around, especially with the schedule ahead of them. And getting to like an 8-win mark. I mean, they're going to be 1-3. They'd have to go, they'll be 7-1 down the stretch. I mean, that's not going to happen. So it's a big game for both these teams. Very big game. But my gut leans West Virginia. Your question, Brady, is Arizona State legit? Legit or not legit? Maybe we'll make that a segment in next week's show. They're a young team, Brady. That's the thing. That the jury's still out. Like, Wyoming clearly isn't that good. Like, the Wyoming win doesn't really mean much to me now because Wyoming's been terrible. They lost to Idaho. They got destroyed by BYU. Like, Wyoming has not put up a fight any game they've been in. So not really sure if we can say they're anything. Mississippi State, clearly we saw, is not very good. They got destroyed by Toledo just last week in Starkville. And Arizona State only won that game 30-23. Yeah, they were up big, and Mississippi State crawled back into it, but they had a chance to maybe tie it up there in the final few minutes, and luckily the defense held. And then Texas State, that was a great game. That's honestly the most impressive win for Arizona State, was their win against the Bobcats. A back-and-forth game, one that I actually thought Texas State would win. And Arizona State battled back. They were down early, battled back, tied it up, found a way to pull out a win on the road. I mean, a lot of credit to them for that. So I think they've got a lot of young talent. I think Dillingham's actually a pretty good coach. Last year, they were just hindered by injuries and experience. So, yeah, I think they're going to be solid. Flirt with a bowl game. Only need 3 more wins. But I don't think they're going to get there. I think conference play is a different animal, and I think it'll be a little bit more difficult for them. So they've improved drastically. Not quite to a bowl point yet, I don't think. Could be wrong. Don't think they're going to get there. But they have definitely shown a lot more signs of life, been a lot more competitive. And that's really what you want to see from a young head coach in his second year with the program. You want to see improvement, and they've already gotten that significantly. So not going to say they're legit, but they have definitely improved drastically. Final question here, since the questions have died down a little bit, and we've gone for almost 2 hours tonight. How about that? Gone by fast. Robert, good to see you. Does Kansas still have a chance at winning the Big 12? Kind of ties into what Scotty said earlier. Who am I picking between West Virginia and Kansas? Mathematically, Robert, yeah, they've got a chance, right? Even if they lose to West Virginia, they've got a chance because Kansas has 2 losses, neither in conference play. So they could lose to West Virginia, only have 1 conference loss, and then maybe win out or lose 1. They could probably lose 2 conference games and still get in as a 4-loss 4-loss team into the Big 12 championship. So, yeah, they still have a chance, but are they going to? No. They are missing. Who would have thought they would miss Jason Bean this much, right? Like when Jalen Daniels got hurt, it kind of felt like the sky was falling, but Bean comes in, played great ball. And if you remember last year, Jalen Daniels was probably healthy enough to play in their bowl game against UNLV. And Lance Leipold was like, look, it's the last game of the year. Bean got us here. He played the majority of the season. It's his final game. I'm not subbing him out for Jalen Daniels, who's been cold. And Bean led them to a bowl victory, their first since like 2007 or 2008, and a 9-win season. But you could argue Bean was the better quarterback. And at one point in time, Daniels was lighting it up. I just don't think – I think, sometimes you see players that get hurt and they never bounce back. They never come back to 100% form. And I think that's what we're seeing from Jalen Daniels. I think he got hurt. He's playing a little bit more timid. He's playing a little bit more scared. He's underthrowing a lot of balls. He's turning the ball over at a much higher rate than he was prior to his injury last year. So something's just not right, probably both mentally and physically with Jalen Daniels. And that has obviously hindered Kansas in their ability to have a special season, a year where many of us thought they could be Big 12 title contenders because the run game can only do so much. There's no balance offensively anymore. The defense has never been good under Lance Leipold. They've improved a little bit, but they're still not great. And if you think they have a chance to win the Big 12, I mean, yes, mathematically they do, but if you think they're getting by with a pretty difficult schedule the rest of the way, it's just not looking good. So Kansas right now with the poor start, considering many people, including myself, thought they'd be 3-0 at this point. Now they're 1-2. Really just needs to hope they can find themselves back in a bowl game. That's what they need to hope for. If you're Kansas, just hope you can right the ship and get to the postseason. And that urgency is going to be there even more if they lose to West Virginia on Saturday and start 1-3. Something none of us thought would happen. 1-3. Didn't think that was coming. But your margin for error, you've got to go 5-3 at the least over the final 8 games of the season. And that's all going to be in conference play. Not ideal. Not an ideal spot to be in. So do they still have a chance? Yeah, they've got a chance. They've got a chance. Are they going to do it? No, they're not. Like you guys down there have said, like Trey has said, he's got Utah coming out of the Big 12. I've got Kansas State coming out of the Big 12. And the Big 12 has too many elite contenders that Kansas would have to beat or find a way to jump, and they're not going to do that. Are they going to get past Utah, Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, maybe UCF? BYU's 3-0. Arizona's not bad, even though they just got torched by Kansas State. Like, are they going to be able to get past those teams? No, they're just not. So, again, Kansas, hope for a bowl game. It'd be their third straight bowl game, which would mean they would have a shot at another winning season, back-to-back winning seasons. I mean, that'd be pretty special. So that's what you're hoping for Kansas. The Big 12, though, overall, that race for the championship is going to be a lot of fun. Like, who comes out of the Big 12 this season? Because remember, the winner of that conference will go to the playoff. It's very, very interesting to me. Like, when we finally get to see Utah in there after falling short for so many years in the Pac-12, they've had so many great seasons in the Pac-12, but would always lose so late. Like, they'd win the conference, go to the Rose Bowl, but that was only because they lost like in the last week of the year against like an Oregon or somebody like that. So does Utah finally break through? Does Oklahoma State finally break through? They've had lots of good years under Mike Gundy, never made the playoff. And then, of course, that infamous 2011 season where they had such a great year and then got left out of the BCS National Championship. Like, they've been so close under Gundy and never gotten to the big spot. Could this be the year? Could Kansas State do it? They would have been in the playoffs just 2 years ago when they beat TCU and won the Big 12. So maybe Kansas State gets their shot. That's my pick right now. Iowa State even. Iowa State probably would have been in the playoff if the 12-team format had been implemented back in 2020. They made the Fiesta Bowl and torched Oregon in that game. Where the Big 12 runner-up. So, I mean, those are your 4 contenders in the Big 12. Everybody else is a dark horse or maybe contending or could surprise. But how those 4 teams fare against each other will ultimately dictate not who makes the Big 12, but who comes out of the Big 12 for the college football playoff. And we will start to get clarity on those teams this Saturday when Utah takes on Oklahoma State in Stillwater. So the first of many massive Big 12 games that will not just affect the conference, but ultimately will affect the national landscape. All right. With that, I say we call it a night. How about that? I say we call it a night. We've got some videos to shoot, man. I've got 3 more prediction videos for you guys to film, to produce, to edit, all that stuff over the next couple of days. Tomorrow, we've got a doubleheader. Tomorrow, we've got 2 videos coming your way. We are going to predict USC and Michigan, which we've got right behind us right there. Will the Trojans storm into the big house and get the win, or will Michigan kind of right the ship a little bit? You'll find out tomorrow. We're also going to predict Tennessee and Oklahoma. Massive game, a chess match, if you will. Tennessee's offense versus Brent Venables' defense. That prediction comes out tomorrow as well. And then Friday, we will predict that Utah-Oklahoma State game. So 3 big-time individual prediction videos coming your way right here on the channel over these next few days. And then we aren't traveling this weekend, thankfully. So we will be back on Sunday with our week 4 recap video. We didn't get a recap video out last week. We're going to have one this week. So we'll be able to talk about how we did on our expert picks. You do not want to miss out on those guys. We're actually doing okay, especially over on the NFL side as well. You know, it's not just college. We have our combo package. We're undefeated in our best bet section in the NFL. So, you know, all the more reason to sign up. Help us reach that goal. Every single pick or every single subscription gets us one step closer to 100, which means it gets us one step closer to that 24-hour live stream. So we'll be recapping that on Sunday, as well as all the action that we've got coming our way this college football weekend, the games that we've talked about tonight, the teams that we've talked about tonight. We're going to have you covered. And then, of course, next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central Time, right here in this very spot, with this very background, with all of you, members of our GE Nation, talking what the heck's going to happen in week 4, what the heck's going to happen in week 5, taking your calls, taking your comments. We're going to have you covered again every Wednesday. Do not miss it. Do not miss it. We want you to be a part of our GE Nation. All of you guys have been very, very vital parts of our nation for many years now. Some of you new, some of you old, but we appreciate every single one of you. So with that, I want to say goodbye. Brady, my man Trey, I appreciate you. Doggy, Scotty B, Robert, my man Danny out in California. I'm going to hit you up with that email. South Tex, Britt Hall, Max Todd. Good to have you, man. It's been way too long. I want to talk more. I hope you come back next year. Our callers, Hunter, Cyrus, and Brady. We appreciate you guys calling in tonight. It was so good to hear from all of you. Hopefully we'll have more next week. My man Clement, good to see you. God, who else has been here, man? Mitch was here. Scott Young was here. UCF, Daryl earlier in the stream, 2 hours ago. Wolful. All of you guys, I probably missed a handful as well, but we appreciate every single one of you. Have a great rest of your night. Check out our videos the rest of the week. And, of course, we'll be back here live next Wednesday for another college football live stream. Have a great night, everybody. We'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.